And a city council meeting. It is Tuesday, April 21st, 2026, 7:02 p.m. And as Director Benarott mentioned, we're doing these meetings in a hybrid fashion. People are watching in remotely and are able to participate in our meetings. Sometimes we have public hearings that they can participate in. There are none of those this evening. We do, however, have community comment, and some folks may want to contact us remotely, and we'll listen to their concerns that they have. And then we've also got time for folks in our community that have come down to City Hall this evening to be able to voice their thoughts as well and concerns that they might have. So having provided that information about how we're conducting the meetings, and I think Director Benarott indicated if you were going to speak during public comment this evening, remember that you can't speak as to anything that's on the agenda this evening or scheduled for a future public hearing. Otherwise, you'll have 3 minutes. The yellow light will go on. You'll have 30 seconds to get your comments finished up, and then we'd like to have you finish right around the 3-minute mark. We treat everybody the same that way. So having provided that information, I'm going to ask our clerk, Sharon Ellison, to call the roll.
Councilmember Agnew. Here. Councilmember Jackson. Here. Councilmember Pierce.
Here.
Councilmember Risser.
Here.
Mayor Hovland.
I'm here. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a form of agenda that's been published for the benefit of the council and members of our public so they can see what's going to be conducted from a business standpoint at the council meetings. Is there anyone on the council who wishes to amend the agenda in any form or fashion or from a staff standpoint? All right. Hearing nothing, is there a motion to adopt the meeting agenda as published?
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion from Member Agnew, second from Member Pierce to adopt the meeting agenda as published. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adopting the meeting agenda as published, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. The meeting agenda is adopted. We have a document to work from this evening. Now we are at community comment. We're going to get this phone number up on the screen, and then we're going to invite residents or anybody else that wishes to address the council on a matter of concern to them at this particular point in time. And one of our residents is already ready for Be a Hornet Day on May 8th. He's got his green shirt on. Good evening.
Mayor, council members, my name is Ralph Zickert. First, a belated shout out to Member Agnew. She and I both asked Manager Neal to provide the details of how the 2026 general property tax levy, originally projected at 17%, was ultimately lowered to 7.94%. In January of 2026, Member Agnew got an answer and shared it with me. The left-hand portion of this schedule represents what was prepared by staff and shared with Member Agnew. It confirms the $5 million associated with the general levy reduction was not achieved via spending cuts. It confirms the deferral of $1.8 million of capital and equipment spending to future years, the transfer of $1 million to Edina utility bills, and the transfer of $586,000 to Hennepin County, none of which reduces the actual tax burden on the public. So no Mayor, no Member Pierce, no Member Jackson, spending cuts did not account for even half of what you claim. In fact, a generous estimate would be at most $1.3 million. The unfortunate truth is that you all knew this was the case over a year ago, via handouts, emails, and community comment, but you chose not to listen and refused multiple offers to discuss the issue in person. Instead, the council continued to promote the general levy reductions as having been achieved through cuts. For all the above reasons, the 2026 budget was undeniably unsound and unsustainable, and therefore the council deserves a grade not of F, but of F-. And to make matters worse, The council continues to contemplate spending $19 million of our tax dollars to fund a parking garage to serve a yet unbuilt private commercial property. And tonight, the council will vote to spend another $400,000 towards a $20 million pedestrian tunnel under France. So tonight I ask, will the council acknowledge that spending cuts played a minor part in the 2026 budget? And if not, why not? I ask, will the schedule shared with Member Agnew, showing that to be the case, be included with manager comments? And if not, why not? Thank you.
Good evening.
Hi, Taylor Brushwine. I live in the Chowan Park neighborhood. I'm usually here to talk about a bike project or a pedestrian project. I'm aware that you see people that get fixated on single issues, and I'm conscious of becoming the weird bike guy. So I wanted to come share my values and my motivations, so maybe you understand where I'm coming from next time I do come. So first of all, I don't think bike lanes are the most important thing in the city. I don't think they're top 5 or 10 or 20 or probably 50. But I do think the things that are most important have been proven to be either improved or enabled by a transportation system that allows people to choose how they get place to place and to do so safely. So I wanted to talk about some of those things that I think are the most important. The first is safety, and especially kids' safety. If you ask parents what their biggest fear is for their kids' safety, a lot are either going to say get shot or get hit by a car. And those aren't unfounded fears. The top 2 causes of death for kids under 14 are guns and cars. So I really appreciate the work you did on guns last year. Unfortunately, that's not in your hands at the city level. But cars, the safety on our city streets, that's fully in our hands. And I think there's a lot to improve there. The second is affordability and equity. We all live in a really expensive city, and it's really hard for a lot of people that work in Edina to be able to live in Edina. Again, you've done great things with this, with the Hero Fund and with the ADU law. I see this as another step. If a family doesn't have to depend on a car every time they leave their house, maybe they could go from 3 cars to 2 or from 2 to 1. And on average, that's a $12,000 savings a year. That's a huge step towards affordability in our city. The third is land use. So as we develop or redevelop areas, if we don't have to plan for every single person getting there in their individual car, the parking demand goes down. And now there's a lot more space for public amenities, for green spaces, for further development for local business owners, or to increase our tax base, all really important things that are achievable. I want our new developments to look more like 50th and France and less like the parking lots around Southdale. And the final one is sustainability. So last meeting you heard the climate action plan update, and you heard that of the remaining reductions that we need, 60% of it needs to come from the transportation area. So we can't afford to miss a single opportunity in this area. So that's why I'm so excited about all this, is it touches all these really, really important things. And the last thing I'll say is the fixes are easy and the problems have been solved. We don't have to innovate on this at all. We just have to implement it. So I'll be back to passionately advocate for a bike project or a pedestrian project, but it's not because I'm passionate about bikes. It's because I'm passionate about safety, affordability, equity, sustainability, and our land use. Thanks.
Thank you for being here. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Makabo, and I live in Edina, and we moved 3 years ago. And one of the biggest reasons we moved to Edina was so I could go to Edina High School. But we recently found out that I don't live in the district lines, so I have to go to Richfield High School. And that was like it was really hard for me to like accept it because a lot of my friends go to Edina or are going to Edina High School, and I know a lot of people that go to Edina High School. And I just feel like I'm being excluded, and it's like, it's like really hard for me to like. It would be hard for me to make friends in high school because it's like, I knew these kids all my life, so it's kind of hard to like leave, and like also like I said, it was one of the biggest reasons why me and my mom moved to Edina. Yes, there's like other high schools, like Richfield is not a bad school, but like I feel like I could go farther if I went to Edina High School. That's what I like to say. Thank you.
Okay, Makabal, thank you for being here. Yeah, we've had other folks that have had this situation too, where they're in Edina, but they're in a different school district because we've got overlapping school districts. Bridgefield on the east and Hopkins covers part of northwest Edina, and sometimes it works out to, what we'd then call open enroll, and sometimes it doesn't. But I'd encourage you to keep talking to you and your mom, keep talking to the school district about how much you'd love to be in the Edina School District with your friends.
Yeah,
I think it could happen.
Yeah, we keep talking to the Edina district. They keep telling us that the wait list is full, and there's not a chance that I could make it to Edina High School this year. And we've had multiple emails, we've set up meetings, but it's still not working.
Okay, well, we'll let them know you were here and have a lot of passion around this idea, and your mom, and you came up to speak by yourself, and that's very commendable, and it really shows us how bad you want to be going to school in the town you live in.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thanks for coming in tonight. Anyone else?
I wasn't going to speak, but I changed my mind. So sorry, Jennifer, I didn't fill out a card. She's got me. Lori Groats. I'm up here to speak about the city-owned property, the old public works site at Eden and Arcadia. I've asked the council this question twice before, haven't got the answer, so I'm back for a third time charm. The property sits in a TIF district, but the developer that the city council chose is not requesting any TIF. The approximate purchase price that the city has agreed upon is $4 million. The property was previously owned by the Edina HRA, but Councilmember Jackson, if I remember correctly, was the one that said, let's switch the ownership to the city so that the taxpayers get the benefit from the purchase price for the general fund. Thank you, Member Jackson. What I'm here now to speak about, the developer isn't requesting any TIF. However, since it sits in an existing TIF district, any incremental property taxes, which will be all property taxes since the starting tax base is zero, since the city owns the property, all of those taxes will go to the HRA. I believe there's 16 years left in that TIF district. Mayor, I see you shaking your head no.
I think so. The HRA isn't a tax collecting entity. So.
Yes, it is. The money will go into the HRA money, or into the pot.
Into the HRA pot?
Yep. And so the taxpayers aren't going to get a benefit from those taxes going into the general fund. However, you do have the option of carving out that piece of property from that TIF district. Now, Mayor, I originally spoke to you about this on the Walk with the Mayor in August of 2025. And you said, well, maybe perhaps we can carve it out. Well, I've been to the council a couple of times since, and it sounds like they're getting ready to be starting project in not too far future. Are you going to let the taxpayers get the property taxes from that property, or is it going to the HRA, to their I call it their slush fund? I mean, it's the money that they can use to play with, or like they built the bridge to nowhere with it and so forth like that. So what are you going to do with that property? Are you going to let the taxes go to the general fund? We need the money.
Yeah.
Edina isn't wealthy.
It's a good question, and
I want the response from the council. I don't want the response from Manager Neal.
well, we'll get you the response that's an accurate response,
Okay.
regardless of the source. So
I appreciate that, Mayor. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we'll get it. And that's a good question. Something we haven't taken up yet, so. Manager Neal may have a few thoughts on it. Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Nadia, and I work in the city of Edina, serving students in affordable housing and after-school care programs to provide academic success and support in all aspects of important youth development. Recently, an issue has arisen where I have a family I'm currently working with who lives in the city of Edina, currently trying to transfer to Edina Public Schools for the fall 2026 and spring 2027 school year. The family is currently being told by Edina Public Schools that they are not able to take them and to reside into a different school district due to redistricting policies that are implemented currently. Other districts are also not allowing them to enter because open enrollment isn't an option, so they're redirecting them to Edina Public Schools. My question to the council is, if families' are registered addresses are in Edina, why are they being denied the ability to go to the district where they reside in? Everyone deserves an access to a fair education without restrictions being put into place. And my question for the council is asking you guys to reconsider your redistricting, especially when where the location is just off the cusp of where it was boundaried off of. So I appreciate hearing from you guys and looking forward to connect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure, I think we can provide an answer for you here shortly when we finish up.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience wish to address the council on a matter of concern to them? Okay, anybody online?
No commenters online.
Okay. Our practice is that with public comment that's been made at the prior meeting, our city manager addresses those issues by Friday of that week, and that's done online. And then we also have him follow up with comments at the subsequent city council meetings. So Manager Neal, I think there were a few comments that required responses at the last city council meeting, and I think one or two from Mr. Zickert, I believe.
3 from Mr. Zickert, actually, all pertaining to me. So we had 5 questions at our last council meeting that we'll answer tonight that we've already previously answered. First question was, who other than Councilmember Pierce was aware that the city manager had established a consulting practice with his son? I informed the council of this in December of 2024 during my annual review. Next question was, what reporting did the city manager share in real time with the entire city council with respect to dates and hours worked as a consultant? When I am doing something outside of work as in a consulting practice, I do that during personal leave, vacation leave. The employer, the city in this case, does not require a description of what I'm doing on my vacation leave. We don't do that to any employee here. So that's the answer to that. Number 3 was, what resources, including staff time and documents, were used by the city manager to further a website and consulting practice? The answer is none, 0. The 4th question was, will the city reconsider part of its plans for restoration of Lake Cornelia buffer? City staff had initiated a tree replacement program after removing diseased ash trees throughout Edina. These plantings are occurring on city property throughout the city. The initial white flags that were placed around the Lake Cornelia buffer were placeholders only. Those locations did not accurately reflect where all new tree locations would be. City staff will further develop a tree planting plan that aligns with the approved restoration buffer plan for the enhanced woodland type adjacent to Lake Cornelia, and staff will review that in the future. Final question was, will you consider installing a crosswalk on Interlochen Boulevard at Coopers Avenue? And the answer is yes, we will consider that. A traffic safety request was submitted and is under review by the Traffic Safety Committee. After review by the committee, it will go to the Edina Transportation Commission and eventually the City Council for approval using our standard process. And that's all we had. Thank you.
Okay, I think Councilmember Jackson had a follow-on to one of your comments.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the question has been raised by a couple different people regarding Manager Neal's consulting business. This is a peer-to-peer counseling business that he does in his own private time. He's not using city time, he's not using city resources, and there's no conflict of interest. And I wanted to talk about this because I thought about my own professional responsibility. I'm a licensed attorney. For an attorney in Minnesota to keep their license, they have to take hours of continuing legal education on ethics based on the Code of Professional Responsibility. This includes conflict of interest. The rules on conflict of interest are detailed and time-tested. A more newly added requirement for attorney licensure is mental health awareness training. The mental health requirement was added because lawyers succumbing to stress reach a point where they are no longer able to ethically serve their clients. The Bar Association has created an entity called Lawyers Helping Lawyers to address the pervasive stress among lawyers. My point, this is peer-to-peer counseling. Lawyers Helping Lawyers does not violate the powerful and detailed rules against conflict of interest, and it meets legal requirements. City managers also face stress in their profession. Mr. Neal is to be commended for offering peer-to-peer consultations to strengthen his profession. This is a much-needed 21st century tool to help professionals better serve their clients and constituencies.
Yeah, thanks, Member Jackson. Manager Neal, I'm going through some of these comments that were made this evening. I'm thinking about the comment that Mr. Zickert made about gives us an F- on the budget work. Just a reminder for folks that our city has a double AAA bond rating, one of probably 3 dozen cities in the United States our size that has that highest bond rating you can achieve. So I've got some confidence in our budgeting work based on the economic strength of our city as viewed by the rating agencies. Just wanted to get a verification from you that nothing's happened with respect to that rating.
No, nothing has happened with our bond rating. It's AAA in both Standard & Poor's and Moody's, and these are experts who pay attention to municipal budgets all over the country.
With respect to both the concerns that Mekabal Ayeli had and I think Nadia probably concerned about the same issue with the school district boundaries. We went through an effort like this a few years ago at the state legislature. Not all cities have their school districts entirely contiguous with their towns because these school district boundaries were drawn in some cases over 100 years ago when there was just farmland in place. So we've got a little sliver of Edina that is in the Richfield School District, and there's a piece of Northwest Edina that's in the Hopkins District. We tried a couple of years ago to get those boundaries squared away, and we went to the state legislature, and I think is it called disengagement?
Unite 270.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Yeah,
I can't remember the term.
Yeah. Anyway, the school district that the kids are in, even though they're in a different town, so Richfield or Hopkins, for example, would have to agree to release that part of your town out of their school district to go into the district in which the people are living, which would be in Edina in this case. So, but Hopkins refused to let us go, or let that part of Edina go into the Edina School District. So we have kids that are open and enrolling from Northwest Edina. We got kids that are open and enrolling from East Edina that are maybe in the Richfield School District. And I think it's just a matter that people have to hang in there and keep trying to go to a great school. And those other school districts are good too. But of course, we have a particular high level of pride in the Edina School District. But that's the situation. Manager Neal, you may have any add-on on that?
20% of our community is in the Richfield School District, 10% of the community is in the Hopkins School District, and the remaining 70% is in the Edina School District. And the city council doesn't have any role in setting those boundaries. Those boundaries are determined by the schools themselves and also the Minnesota Department of Education. And it's a very complicated process to change a line. We have a couple buildings. We have a couple apartment buildings in town where the east end of the building is in the Richfield district and the west end is in the Edina district. And so it depends on what end of that building you live in, depends on which will dictate which school district you go to. But that's what we have here.
So same advice, I think, is just to keep asking the school district about admission. And we'll mention that you were here. We were just with them yesterday. It's part of that three-legged stool that makes Edina function so well, the business community, the school district, and the city itself working together to make our town a really great place to live and do business in. And then the question that Lori Groats raised, which is a good one, we've been talking about, or have we actually transferred the property ownership from the HRA to the city?
We have, right? No, not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
I think that question does take a little time to put together a response. I think our staff will provide you kind of your legal options, and then council will have to decide what happens from there.
There's been some discussion, I think at least preliminarily, about us, HRA, which is the city council sitting with a different hat on, the HRA transferring that property to the city. And that would be one of the things we'll have to be considering. That'll solve the issue that way if it doesn't get solved some other way. That cause anybody else to have any comment? Yes, Councilmember Agnew.
Thank you. Going back to, I think, the question that we had gotten last week about the Lake Cornelia planting, given that we had, I think, a couple of emails about it and community comment, I would also love to see that plan.
Sure.
So once that is refined, I would love it if it could be brought back to council, please.
We can do that.
Thank you.
And if they're going to plant 40 trees over there instead of 90, Councilmember Jackson and I were with some neighbors over in Londonderry Townhomes that they've got a good spot for more trees over there in case we need a place to plant trees. They'd like some more trees along is it along Londonderry Road there? Is it?
Yes. Yes, I think that's London. No, it's Lincoln.
It's Lincoln?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yes, so excuse me, Councilmember Risser.
And this is a little random, but part of the Braemar is in the Eden Prairie School District.
Right.
And then we also have a tiny bit in Bloomington. So we're really carved up.
There are 4 homes in the Morningside district that are in the St. Louis Park district. And as Councilmember Risser noted, a big chunk of Braemar, our golf course, and Braemar Ice Arena is actually in the Eden Prairie School District.
All right. We've had community comment. Next is the consent agenda. Is there anyone on the council who wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda? All right. Hearing nothing, is there a motion to adopt the items on the consent agenda in a single motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Jackson moves. Councilmember Pierce seconds the motion to adopt all of the items on the consent agenda in a single motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the items on the consent agenda in a single motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Those items are adopted. And there are several items on that portion of the agenda that are adopted with that single motion. And next, we've got some introductions to take care of here. I'm going to go back to Manager Neal in a moment when he's done talking to Director Benarott, but we've got a new Human Resources Director that he wants to introduce. And we met her briefly yesterday at State of the City, and it was nice to get a sneak preview of our new Human Resources Director, and Manager Neal.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to introduce Jessica Nikkonen. Jessica is our new Human Resources Director. She started 2 weeks ago? Yeah.
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. She started with us 3 weeks ago, but we have some previous experience with her too that I think she'll tell you about here as she introduces herself. So, Jessica.
Thanks, Scott. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. My name is Jessica Nikkonen, and I am honored to serve as the city's new Human Resource Director. A little bit about me. I am born and raised in Minnesota. I grew up in Glencoe and then attended St. Olaf College, where I got my degree in economics. I'm a data nerd. And I have my master's in public administration from Hamlin. The first 14 years of my career were in the public sector, and included roles in administration, public works, and ultimately finding my passion in human resources. These 14 years were spent at a few cities around the metro area, including being the HR generalist for the city of Edina back in 2012 to 2015. I then made a transition, left-hand turn, into the private sector, where I spent almost 10 years as an insurance broker consultant helping other Minnesota cities and counties design their benefits packages. I've always had a passion for local government, and I'm really excited to be back in the public sector. It's meaningful work powered by the people who show up every day committed to making a difference. I have a great HR team here, and we're dedicated to recruiting, supporting, developing, and empowering our employees so they can do their best work. Most of the work the HR team does is largely behind the scenes, but it's important because it translates directly into excellent service for our residents and business owners. A little bit about me personally. I'm a mom of 2 wonderful boys in 8th and 10th grade. They keep me busy in sports throughout the year, so I'm a reluctant sporting parent. At this time of year, you'll likely catch me at a baseball field or 2 most nights of the week. I'm fortunate they both enjoy learning and are great students. I love to read and travel, which is good since my partner is a commercial pilot. He has 1 son, and they live just over the Edina border in Minneapolis, so you'll often see us enjoying the wonderful parks and amenities in Edina. I live in Jordan, but hope to move to Edina after my boys graduate high school. I'm very appreciative to be back in the city. I look forward to partnering with city leadership and staff to continue building an organization we're all proud to be a part of.
Yeah, thanks, Director Nickon. It's really nice to have you here. Thank you. And thanks for coming back. Thanks for being interested in coming back. We must have made a good impression last time you were here.
It was a very good experience. I'm very lucky to be back.
And we're fortunate to have you here. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we've got in this portion of the agenda, we've got a couple of proclamations, and then we're going to get a update on the I-494 corridor activities. Our own James Pierce is a member of that corridor commission, and we've got the people who run the corridor commission and the TMO operations, the Transportation Management Organization operations, with us this evening. Are going to report on that in a few minutes. But first, we're going to talk about Building Safety Month as May 2026, and the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas our city of Edina is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role of our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play both in everyday life and in the time of natural disaster. And whereas our confidence in the structural integrity of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, such as building safety and fire prevention officials and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, who are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, play. And whereas these modern building codes and standards include safeguards to protect the public from natural disasters, such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wild land fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the ICC to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, sustainable, and affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas Built to Last, the theme for Building Safety Month 2026, encourages us all to raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local, state, tribal, territorial, and federal building safety and fire prevention departments in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Edina does hereby proclaim the month of May 2026 as Building Safety Month in the City of Edina. Accordingly, I encourage our citizens to join with their communities in participating in Building Safety Month. Is there a motion to approve the proclamation as read?
So moved.
Second.
Member Jackson moves. Member Pierce seconds the adoption of the proclamation on Building Safety Month as read. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the proclamation on Building Safety Month designating May 2026 as Building Safety Month in the City of Edina, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. The proclamation is adopted, and we've got Rick Chase with us, our assistant building official, here this evening, and we're going to go take a photo with him after a couple of remarks, and we'll bring the proclamation down to him when we go to take that photograph. Mr. Chase, welcome.
Thank you. Very excited about building safety.
So thank you for your support. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. I am the Assistant Building Official, and like I said, I would like to thank you for your support for Building Safety Month. The Building Department includes 14 employees. Annually, we make over 18,000 inspections, and we do those inspections in accordance with the State Building Code for life safety, health, and public welfare. The department is also a member of the International Code Council. I would also like to thank the building department staff for their dedication in performing the day-to-day work. It's really the people, certainly underneath the assistant building official, that are out engaging our community, providing safe alternate solutions for our community and our residents. So hats off to them. I would also like to personally thank the fire department, fire prevention, and our fire inspection team. Very important to our day-to-day work. Again, thank you, City Council, for your support. It is appreciated.
All right, thanks, Mr. Chase. So we're going to walk down with you and get a photo taken. Council members, let's go.
You're welcome.
Whoops, I gave him the wrong. Can you get it?
Yeah. Oh, I should trade him though. Your helmet.
Yeah, there.
Excuse me.
Luther's going to wonder why I'm talking about building. Building inspection again if he comes up to it. Thank you. This was a guy had to be able to keep two proclamations in order, you know. Yeah, we've got Luther Overholt, our forester, with us this evening, and he has come up with some great ideas for tree planting and preservation of existing tree stock in Edina over the past several years. He works so hard at what he does. And I know some folks are thinking, well, we got to get out and get those dead trees picked up. He's got a different view of that in the parks, and he can talk about that a little bit. But the first thing we're going to do today is talk about Arbor Day, and that's April 24th, 2026, just coming up a few days from now. And every year I'm kind of surprised about this because Arbor Day started in Nebraska. So I'm still waiting to see a lot of trees in Nebraska. But I think in northeast Nebraska there are quite a few. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed at the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas forest soils prevent flooding and reduce stormwater by capturing and storing rainwater and snowmelt, which is then slowly released to our lakes, streams, and groundwater. And whereas trees and forests improve our physical health by cleaning the air, reducing exposure to the sun's UV rays, and decreasing temperatures during the summertime. And whereas one tree provides $62,000 worth of pollution control over a period of 50 years. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas forests create high-quality drinking water by acting as a natural filter. And whereas Edina is proud of the beautiful shade trees which grace our homes and our public places. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Edina, Minnesota does hereby proclaim April 24th, 2026 as Arbor Day in the City of Edina, Minnesota, and calls upon the spirited and foresighted citizens of Edina to plant trees now for our pleasure and that of future generations. Is there a motion to adopt a proclamation on Arbor Day?
So moved.
Second.
All right. We got a motion and a second to adopt the proclamation on Arbor Day as read. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the proclamation say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Luther, welcome. Hey, good to see you. It's getting into a heavy part of the year for you, I'm sure.
Yes, definitely. Mayor, Council, thank you for your continued support of trees here in Edina. Like the mayor said, this Friday is Arbor Day. So first off, I'd like to invite all of you to Creek Valley School Park. We will be planting 70 new trees there from 10 to 2 p.m. or until all the trees are planted. I imagine they'll be getting planted quite quickly. I've been working with Dr. Amy next door at the school, so all 26 classes will be attending. All 593 students will be coming and planting a tree on Friday, and so it should be a lot of fun. We'll kind of go through quick 10-minute groups with all the classes. I have one tree reserved for each class, and then we'll teach all the students how to plant a tree correctly, and then name it, and that will be their tree. Otherwise, too, we'll have another 50 or so trees to be planted by everyone else that comes out and joins. And so, yeah, definitely looking forward to that, kind of like Christmas for me, so something that I look forward to every year.
All right, and you had a tree sale recently? Is there any...
So the tree sale sold out. There were a couple trees hanging in there till the end, but that was 250 trees, over 15 different varietals of tree. Those will be available for pickup Mother's Day weekend, that Friday, Saturday over at the Golf Dome. And so everyone who's ordered their tree, they should have gotten an email with the, kind of a reminder. And then too, the week before, we'll send out another email just to remind everyone. And then we'll be having another tree sale in the fall, another 250 trees in the fall available again for our fall tree sale as well.
Can you, I hate to put you on the spot, but can you remember the trees that are still available, the species?
The Kentucky coffee tree was the only one that was left in there, but they are all sold out now.
Okay.
But that was the one. There were a couple in there, but yeah, definitely was getting lots of calls at the end, and then too, it's kind of confused. People are like, "Where are all the trees?" I'm like, "There's only one. Just that one. That's the only one left." And so they did go, but it's a great shade tree. We'll be planting some on Friday. So.
Okay, good. Well, let's go down and take a photo with Luther on Arbor Day for Arbor Day. Now, Manager Neal, I'm going to turn to you. We're going to have a 494 quarter commission update, and Member Pierce may have some comments as well, but let you introduce our guests here this evening.
Thank you, Your Honor. The City of Edina is part of the I-494 Corridor Commission. Periodically, we have folks from the commission come in and give us a report about what's happening here. Melissa Madison is prepared to do that for the council tonight. And Councilmember Pierce is on the board representing Edina for us as well.
Good. Ms. Madison, welcome.
Manager Neal. Melissa Madison from the 494 Corridor Commission. Thank you for allowing us to come in and give a presentation to you on the return on investment in your dollars into the Corridor Commission. I'd also like to introduce Kate Meredith and Michelle Leonard, who are here as our outreach team. So the Corridor Commission actually started in 1986 to address concerns about increasing traffic congestion along the corridor, and our member cities include Edina, Richfield, Bloomington, Eden Prairie, and Minnetonka. Each city pays 60 cents per resident to the Corridor Commission annually, and Edina's membership dues are just under $33,000, and that represents 4% of our overall budget. So we're able to provide you a good return on your investment. The federal dollars that we're able to tap into would not be possible without our local cities' contributions. The Corridor Commission takes both a supply side and a demand side approach to slowing traffic congestion. And reduced trips are not as visible as a new road. We like to point that out. 95% of the Corridor Commission's budget is spent on demand management, and 5% is spent on supply side projects. In 2001, the Corridor Commission hired staff to work with employers to reach employees with resources to shift drive-alone commuters into a sustainable mode. And Edina receives commuter services as part of your membership in the Corridor Commission. There are over 340,000 jobs in our 5 cities along 494, which is actually more than both of the 2 downtowns combined. And most of the major interstates have a corridor coalition to look out for the interests of the communities along it. In fact, people from 85 out of 87 counties in Minnesota use this section of 494 on a daily basis. Commuter Services was created to influence employers and commuters towards sustainable commute options to slow the growth of traffic congestion and reduce demand for roads. We hold over 100 on-site commuter fairs annually. And we have several strategies and resources for employers that include displays, preferential carpool parking, on-site commuter fairs, lunch and learns about various topics, including how to bike in traffic, and 494 construction project updates. And we do customized communications for any employer for their newsletters and intranet. We have a deep set of resources for telework and hybrid, and we push out road construction updates. In fact, Commuter Services created the Twin Cities Telework brand actually before COVID hit, and we've been able to help 504 employers with telework and hybrid resources since COVID took effect. And employers have requested from us guidance on how to create connection on a hybrid team, effective communication tips, ergonomic and home office safety recommendations, and help with lack of consistent company policies between departments. So we've been able to meet each of these requests from employers. And this slide shows a representative list of employer business, Edina businesses that we work with. And we have a quote from Joanne Mallon from Centennial Lakes Office Park. She says, "Commuter Services is a wonderful resource for our tenants. They make daily travel easier and more affordable while supporting a more sustainable community. Their guidance, tools, and programs help commuters find smart, stress-reducing commute options." We have another quote from an Edina business from Mary Youngren from Advent Talent Group. She says, "Commuter Services has been a go-to resource we share with employees, whether they're mapping a transit route, exploring carpool options, or taking advantage of the Guaranteed Ride Home program. The tools at commuter.org make commuting easier and less stressful." For commuters, we provide individualized assistance to help them find someone to carpool with or van pool with. We do customized transit information and itineraries for people from where they live to where they're going, and provide 2 free transit passes so they can give it a try. We have a deep set of bike commuting resources, and we tell everyone that we assist about the Guaranteed Ride Home program. As mentioned, we have a deep library of telework and hybrid resources, and our resources are available in multiple languages. In the last couple years, 884 Edina residents and commuters have requested sustainable commuting resources from us. After we assist people with customized commute resources, we do a survey to determine mode shift, and 91% of the drive alone commuters report that they tried the mode that we helped them with. And in fact, we also ask, how frequently do you use your new mode now? And you can see 37% indicate once per week, all the way down to an impressive 19%, which is 1 in 5 people have converted from driving alone into an alternative, sustainable mode. We have a quote from Michelle O'Kelly, who works in Edina. She says, "I have personally used commuter services to evaluate and plan viable transportation options, including public transit, biking, and carpooling. The assistance I received was individualized, practical, and not one size fits all." And we have a quote also from Will Madry from BI Worldwide. He says, "I love incorporating biking into my commute. Having time outside and starting the day with exercise is amazing. I bike to lower my carbon emissions and cut pollution as much as I can. It makes me feel way more productive when I haven't had to navigate a snarl of traffic to get to Edina." And here's a list of community events that we have and are participating in Edina, including this weekend at the Edina Earth Day event. We're working with your joint community police partnership at 44 Flats and the Sound on 76th, as well as Metro South Adult Basic Education, and more events are planned. We work with 28 Edina multi-unit residential properties, and here is a list. We had to snake the lower number around toward the bottom of the slide. We hosted a Metro E-Line webinar for Edina residents, employers, and commuters, which was watched by 192 people. The webinar is available to watch anytime on our YouTube channel, and there is the YouTube channel URL. And in conclusion, in an annual year, we are able to convert approximately 5,700 drive-alone commuters who switch to use a sustainable commute mode 3 or more days per week after receiving customized assistance from us, which results in an estimated 56 million vehicle miles avoided annually as a direct result of commuter services outreach. And 56 million vehicle miles avoided is approximately 23,000 metric tons of CO2 emissions saved. And it would take over 1 million mature trees to reduce the same amount of CO2 emissions. And we are helping the city of Edina reach your climate action goals. And so that is my presentation, and I'll stand for questions.
Yeah, thank you. That was a nice presentation. I'm going to turn now to Member Pierce to see if he has any comment.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So my favorite slide is the CO2 slide. When you think about the number of trees that would be required to remove the same amount of emissions like that. The first time I saw that, it was just mind-boggling to think about it. But thank you for being here to walk through this. I do believe the commission is doing the hard work when we talk about helping residents understand how they need to change. There's a lot of awareness that goes into it. Just trying to help people think differently about how they commute. And so it's hard work to do that, but it's definitely necessary. I've talked a lot about the change model, and this is definitely one that's right in the middle of helping people understand the dissatisfaction. There's a vision there, and then the first steps of how to make change. And so I appreciate the work that is being done there, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you so much.
For that. Questions or comments from colleagues? Councilmember Risser.
I appreciate your work, and I do want to give a shout out to the new E-line, and I really like knowing that I can just go down 62nd, hop on a bus, and go up to 50th in France, which is so nice, really very helpful. So go Metro Transit.
How do you see the Corridor Commission and the work you're doing with commuter services interacting with the completion of the work along 494? Is it going to be compatible? Are you going to be able to drive more business as a result of the change in the freeway configuration?
Well, I think Mayor Hovland, the work to try to reduce traffic congestion is going to be ever ongoing. And so we're actually talking about trying to make improvements to Highway 62 as well, because that is a reliever to 494. But we've built relationships with over 1,200 employers along 494, and so we'll continue to work with them to establish and also expand their commuting programs, and we'll continue to work to try to reach all of the employees at those locations to give them options for their commute.
During the years that I was on the Corridor Coalition Committee, I think we had data that showed that 35W 494 was the busiest intersection in the state of Minnesota. Does that continue to be true?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, all right. And there should be some relief coming with the way they reconfigured 494 in terms of traffic flow. But you may have some comment on that too. You've been involved with that.
No, I was just commenting that it is nice. But we definitely have talked a lot about that project. And it is neat that there are multiple cities that are a part of it that all utilize these resources differently. And so it's beneficial to hear the different perspectives.
Good. Well, I always appreciate your annual update, and it's your organization. The organization's done some great work over the years. Anyone else have anything? Okay, good.
Thank you,
Thanks
Mayor.
for being here.
Thank you, Council.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming in every year. And staff, Kate, thank you. Yep, and you as well. Michelle, thanks too. And we'll see you down the road somewhere, I'm sure, at some event. You talked about the clothing swap, and I think we just saw some information from Twyla Singh on that from our city coordinator, and I think it was over 5,000 pounds of clothes that got exchanged. I mean, 96% of them, I think I saw, were swapped, out of that 5,000 pounds of clothing. So it was good. You have any? Oh, okay. I thought maybe you had the real key data.
Oh, no,
because I know
no.
that she had a whole array of data that was interesting to read. Those are two things that just kind of stuck in my head. All right, we're going to move on now to reports and recommendations portion of the agenda. And the first thing in that portion of the agenda tonight is a resolution 2026-20 accepting donations on behalf of the city of Edina. Is there a motion to adopt resolution 2026-20?
So moved.
Second.
Member Agnew moves, Member Pierce seconds the adoption of resolution 2026-20, which would accept donations on behalf of the city of Edina. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of resolution 2026-20, accepting donations on behalf of the city of Edina, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. The the resolution is adopted, and the names of the donors will be posted on the website. The Edina Senior Center got a beautiful gift from the Friends of the Edina Library, $5,000 for general use. And Edina Park and Rec got a nice bench donation and a couple of other tree donations, and the Edina PD for their Cops on the Court activities got several donations there, and those, as I say, will all be posted up. Thank you to those organizations this time, primarily organizations that were the donors to these different departments in the city of Edina. Next, we're going to talk about the bids that came in on the Roslyn Park pedestrian bridge, and we've all been aware of the fact that that's been a bridge used by pedestrians for a long, long time over the crosstown just west of the hospital. And it's been hit a couple times in the last few years. It needs to get taller. It needs to be ADA compliant, and we've been working with MnDOT to create a design for that. And it's got several different variations on theme, and our engineering director, Chad Miller, is going to talk about the outcome of that bidding process this evening.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Roslyn Park pedestrian bridge, the bid results. We're here at the April 21st, 2026 City Council meeting. I'm Chad Milner, Public Works Director, City Engineer. So the project team, the engagement that we did, and the approvals thus far. So we have Bolton & Mink, Snow Krylik Architects, and Anderson Bridges as part of our team. We have representatives from Bolton & Mink and Snow Krylik with us this evening online. So I know Snow Krylik will want to say a few comments at the end of the presentation, so we'll get them to provide some comments. This is the 13th public meeting that we've discussed this project at. So just giving you an idea, those meetings started in April of 2023. And the MnDOT Bridge Office and all the MnDOT user groups have approved the project, approved the plans, and it did an ADA review. So the plans were signed, sealed, and the bids were received. We knew the budgets from our previous reviews of the estimated cost, the engineer's estimate, that there'd be some challenges with the budget. So we provided 2 construction completion dates. Schedule 1 was set for a completion date of December 1st, 2026. Schedule 2 was June 1st, 2027. We wanted to see if there was a difference in the bids received, and there was quite a large difference in the bids. $1.1 million less for extending that time frame 6 months. So all the project costs that I'm going to share with you are based on that Schedule 2 completion date of June 1st, 2027. I'm recommending that just with that huge difference in the cost. We also provided the bidders with some cladding options, or no cladding. So there was 3 options. There was do the project with no architectural cladding, and I'll show you some renderings of those. Partial cladding, which would be just clad the bridge only and not the on and off ramps, the ADA ramps. And then the full cladding package was the bridge and the ramps with the cladding options. So I'll show some renderings. This is a no cladding option of both the bridge and the ramps. You're looking to the northeast, hovering over Roslyn Park. You can see the bridge and the ramps with no cladding. Your standard railings, you can see the steel truss bridge expanding over Highway 62 and the frontage road, and there's a few people on the ramps and the bridge utilizing that facility. So this is the no cladding option. The second rendering is a partial cladding, the bridge only. So you can see those architectural slats that are attached to that same rendering, the same steel truss. It now goes across the bridge, and when it leaves the actual bridge steel truss structure, it starts to fade into the railings on the ADA ramps that provide access to the bridge. And then the third rendering is the full cladding with both the bridge and the on-ramps with that architectural cladding on both the north and the south side. Again, it's that same hovering above the park looking to the northeast with the steel truss bridge over the highway, but full cladding on both the bridge and the ramps with some trees shown and some people using the facility. And I'll give you 3 more renderings from a different vantage point. So this again is the no cladding option. You're standing on that south ADA ramp near the bridge interface of that ramp. You can see 2 people standing on that overlooking Roslyn Park. So here you can see the more of a standard railing, and then that standard steel truss bridge in the background going over the highway and the frontage road. And then notice in the very back is the 20-foot tall noise wall. So recall that MnDOT asked the residents in that area to vote on it. They did want it, and they are under design, and they plan to install that in 2028. So that 20-foot noise wall will be installed along that corridor. We're working with their design team to make sure our project fits with theirs. Next rendering is the partial cladding, so only the bridge. So you're standing at that same point between kind of that south ADA ramp coming up to the bridge. There's people at the overlook, and you can see that cladding start to transition from full cladding at the bridge to much wider cladding, and then eventually it's going into those railings down the ADA ramps on both sides. And then the third rendering, you're again at that same vantage point, roughly where the ramps and the bridge interface, two people on the overlook. And here it's full cladding. So the bridge and the on and off ramps have cladding all the way down to the base of the ramps. So the bid results and funding. So I took the bid results and added all the indirect costs, the truss that we previously purchased with Anderson Bridges, all the engineering, all the soils, all the testing of the materials on the existing bridge to make sure what we have to do with that bridge when we tear it down, and added it all together to the low bid from that June 1st, 2027 schedule. So the low bidder with all those costs, with no cladding on any of the structure, is at $7.6 million. If we clad only the bridge, so the partial cladding, we're at $8 million. And if we do the full cladding, the bridge and the ramps, that would be another additional $400,000 with a total project cost of $8.4 million for the full cladding. Recall we secured $6.2 million from MnDOT in a couple of forms. So there's a funding gap of $1.4 million with no cladding up to $2.2 million full cladding. So that funding gap is what I think is probably going to be our main discussion this evening. So funding impacts. I'm recommending no cladding and that we delay a variety of projects. I don't think I could come to you as kind of the infrastructure person and say, let's do more when I know we got a lot of infrastructure that needs maintenance. So I'm recommending no cladding with that June 1st, 2027 date. In order to make up that $1.4 million funding gap, we would have to delay the Olinger Sidewalk project. We would dedicate $300,000 from the Parkwood Knolls or the Prospect Knolls neighborhood project when the sidewalks were not approved at the public hearing. And we'd also have to delay some miscellaneous municipal state aid maintenance projects. There's a few retaining walls, some fences, some of that kind of miscellaneous stuff that we would have to delay. If the council wants to go up either the partial or the full cladding, I'm stating it's very impactful to the infrastructure due for maintenance. We would have to delay the Wooddale Avenue Bridge replacement by a year from 2029 to 2030. We have two bridge projects that need beam painting. We'd have to delay that from 2030 to 2031. Hillary Lane on the golf course has been in this discussion. When's that going to be reconstructed? That would have to be delayed a year from 2032 to 2033. Basically, anything that uses municipal state aid funds would be delayed into the future if we went with the full cladding option. So we're not asking for a contract award this evening. We're just asking to better understand what the council wants to move forward with tonight. We would bring that contract back when MnDOT completes their bid review and signs a cooperative agreement that lays out how we're going to receive money from them from that allocations that we have. So I know Brad Smith is online from Snow Krylik Architects, and he wanted to just say a few words on the design itself because they've spent a lot of time doing the cladding and stuff like that. So if Brad's there.
Thank you, Chad. Can you hear me?
We can. Thanks, Brad.
Great. Yeah, appreciate it. Hello, Council. My name is Brad Smith. I'm an architect with Snow Krylik, and I've been involved with the design of the pedestrian bridge since the 2024 design competition. We appreciate the opportunity of working with the City of Edina, Chad's team, as well as Bolton and Mink on this project. From the beginning, the city's goal was clear. The bridge should not just function, it should represent Edina. A bridge is infrastructure, but it's also an opportunity to create a lasting landmark for the community. That idea guided our design decisions. The form, the profile, and the cladding all work together to give the bridge its identity. In a previous council meeting, it was noted that the bridge, with its cladding, reaches public sculpture. We believe that quality is essential to what this design to what makes this design both meaningful and purposeful. Without that cohesion, the bridge risks losing what prompted the competition in the first place, becoming a community landmark beyond something purely utilitarian. At the same time, we recognize the city's budget responsibilities. That's why we studied the partial cladding option. It preserves the competition design intent while reducing over 1,000 feet of cladding on approach ramps and revisiting the slat material from wood to painted steel, a more durable, low maintenance, and cost-effective material. The partial cladding option delivers a memorable, safe, and elevated experience for people walking, biking, or driving through Edina. This bridge is a long-term investment in how the city is experienced by residents and visitors. We believe the partial cladding option strikes the right balance, helping with budget concerns while maintaining the community's original vision for the bridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
And our team will stand for any questions the council has.
Yeah, first question I think is how much time do we have before we have to make a decision on which option we want to take?
Sorry, Mayor. My hope is that I can bring a contract back May 5th.
May 5th.
May 5th, the next council meeting. That all hinges on MnDOT reviewing this cooperative agreement. We've already provided some comments. I'm meeting with them tomorrow or the next day, and if we can get that turned around. So I want to hit a May meeting because Lunda's a low bid and they want to get started. We got to get a schedule from them. So.
Yeah, all that makes sense, and we like the idea of the schedule, I think. But I think it's been a few years since we got this $6.2 million award from MnDOT. I'd like to go back to them. That's why I asked the question, how much time do we have to go back? I'd like to go over to the commissioner and ask her if we can't get at least a inflationary increase on the award from them. I know you may be getting a different opinion from people that you're talking to over there, but I'd like to at least go all the way up the food chain to see what we could do there. That's one option. I don't know if you have a comment on that.
I do. We've already done that. So our original allocation was a $3 million earmark. That was set by the state legislature a couple years ago. MnDOT came to the table with a $3 million allocation. We went to them and we took inflationary pressures, used inflationary numbers, and they gave us another $200,000. And that's what this agreement is I'm working on. So they've already upped the budget $200,000 based on inflationary pressures.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's any other flexibility, but I know from my level and the people I would talk to, I don't think I would be able to secure any additional funding.
Yeah, well, I think the dilemma we're in is, this is my observation anyway, that when you first came with drawings, it was function only back in 2023, 2024. And then we thought, well, let's couple form with function. We had this design contest that Brad referred to in 2024. We had actually an architectural firm from the Netherlands that bid on it, and we picked Snow Kralich. And I think all of us have been keen about this idea of form and function occupying the space on a bridge we're going to have for 80 years. And so to me, it's a matter of trying to figure out how we're going to at least do the partial cladding, which is what the architect thinks we could get away with. So today I asked Manager Neal and Mr. Neuendorf to look at those funds that were in the Centennial Lakes TIF account. And at least there's some possibility, it seems to me, that we could use some of those funds to do the partial cladding at the $400,000 level now, how we can bridge the gap on the rest of it. We have to think about that just on the basic cost of the bridge, but at least those are my preliminary thoughts.
Well, I can answer the first. I've already came up with a plan to cover the $1.4 million gap for the base. We've got to do the project. That's got to happen. Between PACs and state aid, we just have to do it. Mr. Neuendorf did look at the TIF balance in Centennial Lakes TIF, and if we need to, he can come up. But there is a balance in there of $300,000. Well, first, take a step back. First, the council directed staff to allocate $1.5 million of those dollars to the interchange project. So that is basically taking that account down to a pretty small number at this point, but there is $300,000 and potentially up to $400,000 available. So it'd be really close to covering the partial cladding option that you just mentioned.
Okay, thanks for that. I didn't mean to monopolize the conversation, but I'm sure other people have thoughts as well. Councilmember Risser and then Councilmember Jackson.
Okay, thank you. And could you go to the image that shows full cladding of the bridge? And I agree with staff on this one and think it would be best to proceed without the cladding for financial reasons, but also because I am concerned with the cladding. As you're going up and you're moving, there are spaces where just the alignment of the cladding makes it less transparent and it's harder to see. And here, as you're coming up the ramp, you know, it's like if you walk by a fence that has openings as you're moving toward it, at some point it will look solid even though it's not, just because of the way it aligns. And I'm thinking of all of the different users, you know, from short little 4-year-olds. And so a visibility, I have a safety visibility concern, and I was wondering if that is anything that your department has considered.
I think I'll ask Brad to answer that question. They've been looking at all those kind of things as this design has been morphing. So Brad, if you want to answer that one.
Sure. Yeah. So I think there's a balance between the visual transparency, safety concerns, and we have looked into this. And I think that one thing to note is we are looking at still imagery, and so I think your experience on the bridge changes a lot when you're moving, and you know, by the turn of a head, you could change from sort of an opaque to a transparency. I think we've also looked at the cladding or the slats themselves and tried to reduce that, and so that profile is a lot, there's a lot more transparency through it.
We did a
but
lot.
again,
Yep.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Brad. We did a lot of work on the spacing of the slats, but also the thickness of the slats to make sure that you could see through the cladding.
Could we go back to that image again? Because I have other concerns. Okay, it looks like the cladding angles out, and so there's a space between the fencing and the cladding.
Correct. There's an angle that was part of the architectural renderings that were presented, and that's what the council approved.
Okay, so I'm thinking you could end up with stuff getting caught between those spaces.
We've had that same discussion.
Okay. The other concern that I have is about function. And I know this bridge is a meeting place. It is very much a community place. It is a place where people go up with their signs. And looking at the cladding, I don't see how this bridge can function that way as a bridge, you know, where people protest different things and come together for that.
That was never a goal that the council as a group submitted to me for consideration.
Right, and this moved ahead. It's a very iterative process, and I think, you know, just thinking about the function of the bridge, and it really does have that community aspect to it, and so I do regret that didn't come up, but again, you know, just hearing members of the community do really enjoy. Some of them do not like that aspect of the bridge. I do know that, and I have heard from them.
Because we know there's others
yes,
that
there
live
are.
there.
It's a split decision, but and I have heard people say, "Oh, just go to the bridge along France," but that's a very different space. It's not a pedestrian bridge. It's a automobile bridge, and so you can't really have that safety. So I do want to just clearly state I am for the no cladding option. Thank you.
Councilmember Jackson.
So I'm also fine with the no cladding. I want to say that with or without the cladding, this is so much more beautiful than if we hadn't gone through this process. And I want to, even the bare bones of this bridge is beautiful. I know the neighborhood wants more privacy with the cladding, but I'm perfectly happy the way without the cladding. So,
Councilmember Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So a couple of things. You showed the cladding, full cladding on the bridge. What about cladding on just the ramps? Was that looked at at all, or?
We really thought the bridge was the focal point of the project. So it was bridge or not for the cladding. That was always the
Okay,
takeaway.
and so what I'm getting at is safety kind of versus hearing from the residents. Like we had an email that said kind of the line of sights from the bridge you could see into properties. And so I haven't validated the sight lines, but the thought of if that was from the ramps, that's kind of the assumption I was getting, that wasn't from crossing the bridge, it was coming down the ramp. And what if you did cladding there? I understand that we do have the sound wall there that should provide some privacy. And so that was more the question. Would the cladding, if it's on the ramp side, provide any additional privacy?
So there's two properties on the north side, and this view is probably the best, and I can go show it. So this is the no cladding option.
Can you bring it back up?
Oh.
We're looking at you.
There we go.
Thank you.
So there's two properties. If I can get a cursor. So right off this end, we put stakes and property lines, and we met with the owner that lives right behind the wall there. And we actually did elevations and locations and said, okay, this is where it is before MnDOT builds the noise wall. And then we showed them what it is now, add 20 feet to that. So there'll be nobody.
So this should be fine.
Nobody will be able to see over that noise wall. It's like 13 feet above the normal height person.
Okay.
So when that noise wall gets built, and I've actually asked MnDOT if they would let us put in just that little piece to block that one property because it's looking right in the window right at that location. So MnDOT's still seeing if they could do that yet, and they would pay for it.
Okay.
But we could do it. It'd be easier for us to install at this point. The other location is right at the end of the bridge, which is there today. People can look down on that one property next to the trail. There'll be an opening in the noise wall. You can't quite see it on this rendering, but there's going to be an opening there. I don't think the slats are going to change that at all. You'll be able to look through 1.5 foot space, and if you want to look out that spot, you're going to look right out that spot. The ramps themselves, the cladding isn't very tall. You're going to see right over it. It's standard railing height going up and down those ramps.
Perfect. Thank you for that. I appreciated the slide where you covered the gap by adjusting some of the capital spend. And I appreciated that you had dates in there. And so the question I have on these, if we are doing the delays, is there risk, is there like safety risk for, the Wooddale Bridge replacement if we're pushing that a year? Those types of concerns or questions.
For the full cladding option?
Yeah. I just want to understand the thinking behind the delay option.
Yep,
for
great
the full.
questions.
Yeah.
So the Wooddale Avenue Bridge, we inspect that because it's at a certain level now every year. So Ryan Evans is actually on the call. He does the inspections. We already have it limited for weight. We do not think it's going to collapse tomorrow or cave in. In this time frame, we still think it's going to be fairly safe. But if it ever gets to a point and we're not ready to build it, we're just going to close it. And then now we lose that access point. So we've already been looking at that historic bridge for about 5 years to get through all the historical things. So could we delay it a year? Yes. Do I want to? Not really. Those railings are starting to be worse and worse all the time.
Yeah. So I just raised that more for a broader point. I appreciate understanding what the trade-off is if we were to make that decision, as opposed to if we were coming in with the gap, making a decision on that, but not really understanding at this point what the risk is and how you're going to close those gaps. And so I just appreciate the fact that you did that work and you brought this in and are able to have that conversation of what the risk is to the community if we were to delay. So I appreciate that. And then the last one, just for the cladding in general, you answered the concern on the visibility of the residents. This question is more, and I think we've answered this. I think the cladding from the beginning was more aesthetics and not functional. And so I do think it is incumbent on us, maybe not with each and every decision we take, but man, it's not free money. And so really trying to make a sound decision on, is it worth the extra dollars? If you had said to me, no, James, the cladding is functional, it provides some functional, whether it's, I don't know, safety or what have you, then I might feel slightly different about it. But if it's aesthetics, and then given where we are, I think this design, actually without the cladding, I think it's a beautiful bridge. And then the way that we were able to address the ADA with the ramps, I felt like I'd be fine without the cladding as well. So, thank you.
Member Agnew.
Thank you. As someone who uses the existing bridge weekly, I will say I have felt the absence of the trees. It's very, very stark difference. They cut them down a couple of weeks ago now. But I never noticed over the last couple of weeks the line of sight into the homes over there. So just like an interesting call out of, as someone who uses this, that isn't something that I experienced. But I do recall when we were going through the RFP or the contest to bring forward proposals, we were paying attention a lot to the aesthetics of what would this mean. And we knew that this is one of those kind of main focal points, a gateway into the community. And so for that reason, I'm hesitant to go fully no cladding. I think that the partial cladding on the bridge is a good middle ground compromise. So that's where I would lean, but either way, I'm excited that we're moving forward on this and starting things pretty quickly. So I think that that's really important, is that we're able to keep moving forward. Thank you.
Member Agnew, just maybe a couple comments. The reason you're not experienced looking into the home yet is because that ramp on the north side isn't 50 yards to the east, where you're going to be right at that one home right there. So that's one reason. And then the mayor had this idea of the Centennial Lakes TIF earlier today that, you know, I already had that 1.4 covered. The partial cladding could be covered with Centennial Lakes TIF, where it wouldn't impact these projects that I had listed. So that's still, I want to make sure all the council members understand that. That wouldn't impact those projects like I had listed.
Yeah, it would or would not?
Would not.
Would not.
Because we'd have a separate funding source. But then it would basically tap that fund out.
That's money that we have had available to us to use for a variety of qualifying purposes, and this appears to be one of those purposes.
Correct.
So, yeah, because the funding gap was bothersome to all of us, I think. But when we discovered today that there were some funds available in that TIF district left over, and by the time we needed them, probably a year from now, we probably would have 300,000 or 400,000 there to be able to effectively cover the gap. When we started this process with the design contest in 2024, I thought, great, we're going to have something that is a gateway to Edina, it looks like a piece of sculpture, and we had this contest, Snow Kralich won it. Now costs have escalated, and it's a tough decision, but I didn't think I'd like it at all without full cladding, but I'm actually in the same camp as Councilmember Agnew. I like it with the partial cladding, and I think it adds a really wonderful design element. When I think about that bridge being there for the next 80 years, whether you're leaving Edina and heading west or coming into Edina, it's just a real fabulous marker of community. And I just wanted to ask Brad a quick question. It strikes me that with the partial cladding and the higher cladding in the middle of the bridge, it creates another element of safety to the issue that Councilmember Pierce was raising, and that it's actually safer with the cladding in the middle of the bridge than it would otherwise be, although it is still a safe bridge, obviously.
It is safer. I would say mostly the feeling that you have when you're going across a highway you feel safer and more contained when you have the cladding on there.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the sense what I had, because when you go over it now, you feel that openness when you're in the middle of, and the cars are going by 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. I could see where you'd feel safer going across with the cladding. Well, I like the partial cladding idea. I think it's worth the investment. I think we've got a source of funds that when we would need them, we'd have them, and we wouldn't have to. It would mean we wouldn't use them for something else, but they're sitting there and available, and not disruptive to the taxpayers of Edina at all. So I'm in favor of the partial cladding mode, and I don't know where that puts us. We got two that are comfortable with the way it looks with the basic model. Two of us that like the partial cladding, and Member Pierce is kind of got to make his mind up, I guess.
Mr. Mayor,
he wants to leave.
I'm going to help Member Pierce out. I love his comment about feeling more safe, because I have terrible vertigo. I don't like to go on those bridges. So I think if we use that Centennial Lake funds, if it covers the gap, it doesn't impact any other street reconstruction projects, that I'm fine with a partial cladding then.
Yeah, I am too. If we have the source of funds, and you said it would not impact the other projects. Yep. So, yeah.
Okay, appreciate that discussion. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll bring a contract back after we get those MnDOT signatures. And thanks for Brad and Mary and Ryan who are online for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Council.
All right. Well, we thought that conversation was interesting. The next one may be even more so. I'm just going to have Bill Neuendorf come up, but I'm going to have him just kind of hold in place for the time being here. I want to discuss something with the council, an idea that germinated actually out of our meeting last week of our Housing Redevelopment Authority. And it's something I've been thinking about for a while because of the cost of the tunnel. And, when we first started this process a couple of years ago, I think it was Bill Neuendorf, our Economic Development Director, who's done a great job in Edina. He came to us and said, well, there's two pieces of property they're going to redevelop across from each other on France Avenue, and that's like a once in a couple decade possibility of getting people safely across France Avenue under the road, because we talked about going over the road at one point in time. We had a grant from the Met Council. We talked about this at the HRA, and we went back to the Met Council and we said, can we take that money and use it to improve some grade crossings on 66th, 70th, and 76th, instead of using what was, I think, $1 million or $2 million to build a bridge over France Avenue down in that same general area where we're talking about doing the tunnel, because we decided that people weren't going to walk 4 blocks to go across a bridge and then come back 3 blocks. And it just didn't seem like it made any sense. So we made some improvements on those 3 intersections that are still difficult to get across. And that led us to this conversation of, well, if we can't go over, and maybe we can go under, and we talked about at grade crossings, but at that point in time, the county, and you've pointed this out, I think repeatedly and accurately so, that the county a couple of years ago was saying, well, we're not going to change the timing of the lights. This is my recollection now, and we're interested in throughput. We're interested in getting cars from, I'll say, cross down to 494 as fast as we can get them down there on 3 lanes of traffic and turn lanes. And so as we made this initial sort of inquiry about feasibility and spent some money looking at it, it seemed really intriguing to many of us, I think most of us on the council, and then we started seeing what the cost could potentially be, and people started thinking about return on investment. And then I would back up a moment and say that not only did the county make few options available to us, but we also thought that there may be a good chance of federal funding that would come our way. And of course, we know that's all evaporated. So the landscape has shifted, and now we've got people at the county. I told people at the HRA that I was going to talk between our meeting at the HRA and the council meeting about whether or not we could come to the county with an alternative idea of potentially eliminating those 2 inside lanes next to the median in each direction, so you'd have 2 lanes plus a turn lane in each direction on France Avenue. You'd widen out that median to, what would it be, 25 feet?
Yep, it'd be
25 feet wide. And now people can safely get across. You landscape the heck out of it, and you've got a boulevard that lives up to the name France Avenue. It could be gorgeous. It could be gorgeous. And you've slowed people down, which isn't a bad thing. You know what I mean? So some people might be upset about that. I remember when we redid 70th Street,
Yep.
people were mad that we had slowed them down on 70th Street because they wanted to get to the shopping center, you know, and they didn't care really about the fact that they were going through a neighborhood. But when we narrowed up 70th and slowed people down, that gave people the confidence to reinvest in their houses. And they fixed all those houses up on 70th, and they look really good. And that's somewhat comparable to the situation, but it's an interesting part of slowing people down, the effect it has on behavior. So I had a conversation with our county commissioner, who had a conversation with the people in the engineering department. They said, just like we told you with your under the road idea, come with your ideas for moving people safely across the street at grade. If you want to shrink up the road, tell us what you'd like to do, show us what you'd like to do, and we'll look at it, and we'll talk to you about it. And so what I'm thinking now is, you know, after our HRA meeting, I happened to stop at Patisserie Margot on the way down to the office to get something to eat, and I ran into Mark Bernardson, who was the old city manager in Bloomington. He was sitting in there having a cup of coffee. He likes to sit in there and work. He lives over in Edina now. And he said, what was going on at the HRA this morning? And so I told him, and he said, well, I'll tell you what our engineers used to say in Bloomington. If you want to vary from grade, if you want to go over, it's 4 times the cost. If you want to go under, it's 8 times the cost. And that's kind of what we've seen here, is that the cost is pretty significant to move what you're estimating at 300 people a day through a $20 million passageway, which looks gorgeous. So my notion is, because of what we've gotten for feedback from the county, directly from our county commissioner and indirectly from the engineering staff there, is that we ought to hit the pause button here. And what we ought to do is follow up on this alternative idea that now is surfaced that wasn't available to us 2 years ago. And so what I'd like to do is propose a motion to suspend all current and future city spending on studying the feasibility and design of the France Avenue proposed underpass project, and then further direct staff to engage with their technical colleagues at Hennepin County to study at-grade alternatives for safe pedestrian crossings of France Avenue between 66th and 77th Avenue South. And alternatively, I get to thinking about what we did on Interlochen Boulevard. That used to be a county road. We took it back from the county, if that's the correct sort of expression.
Yep, it was a turn back.
And I don't know if it makes any sense for us to own France Avenue from across town to 494 or not, but yeah, you're shaking your head.
No.
The cost might be such that we don't want to mess with it.
They wanted us to take Vernon, and then we couldn't even justify that cost. Remember those state aid numbers I just showed you?
Forget that alternative idea. Forget that alternative idea. But I would, you know, and I'm more than happy to have Bill make another presentation. My colleagues are going to decide how they feel about this, because we don't talk about these things amongst ourselves. We can't. But I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to restate it. I'm going to look for a second, see where the conversation goes, and then we'll go from there. So the motion would be to suspend all current and future city spending on studying the feasibility and design of the France Avenue proposed underpass project, and further direct city staff to engage with technical colleagues at Hennepin County to study at-grade alternatives for safe pedestrian crossings of France Avenue between 66th and 77th Avenue South on France Avenue, and report back to us by June 30th of 2027. So we'd give you a little over a year to kind of look at this issue, unless you then don't think that's enough time.
I think there's a lot of discussions to be had. They're going to want a traffic study. They're going to want layouts, who's going to put what together and pay for it. I think we need as much time as possible. So we can come back with updates, like how the discussions are going. And
I just thought we should have a date pinned to the project, and I'm okay to make it June 30th of 2028 if you want, but
I think let's go 27.
Yeah.
That'll just be for me to make sure I come back and
Okay.
keep you updated. It's kind of a
Okay.
placeholder to make sure we keep.
Anyone on the council want me to restate the motion? Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
All right, we're in discussion. Member Risser.
I think it's a good idea to suspend investment on this particular project. I did request some images be available that I'd like to talk about, and just if you could indulge me on this, because come June 30th, 2027, I'm not going to be here. So I do have concerns. And at that HRA meeting, I did reference this Hennepin County Towards Zero Death Action Plan, which was created in September 2025. And one of the things that I think is so important is ensuring that we are working with Hennepin County in a way that really uses, and I know all of us really feel this way, uses our limited financial resources as best we can. And I did highlight this one bullet from their study, an understanding and acknowledgement of the communities most impacted by fatal and serious injury traffic crashes, with a specific focus on vulnerable road users. Pedestrians and bikers are vulnerable, but if I could see the next slide, and we'll be moving through this. One thing that concerns me is we have been working on this idea for a really long time. On August 24th, 2023, in our HRA work session, we had LHB come, and it's interesting to listen to that session because we go through so many possibilities, and ideas, mentioning underground entities, a railway station, all of that, which really, it's great and fun to kind of think about things, but I think being mindful of what is actually the reality is so important. And at that meeting and continuing until this one, if we could go back to that one, we kept seeing a slide from 2007. Okay, and that was before we got funds from the federal government that we decided to use at the at-grade crossings in 2012. And so I think it's important to look at that. I highlighted another thing, this is also from that action plan, the Hennepin County HIN, and used 5 years of fatal and serious injury crash data from 2019 to 2023. And so as we are looking at projects, if we can kind of figure out how to analyze them with the most relevant data, I think that is so important. For 18 months of my career, I was a site miner for a solar energy company, and we had people working on different aspects of land use, and all of us were tasked with trying to ensure that we were not proceeding down a pathway where we were entertaining a project that had a fatal flaw. And so I was on the comprehensive plan, I was on city codes, township codes, and also environmental issues, and so it's possible you can get the owner to agree, you got a great purchase agreement, you're right near three-phase, but you're looking at land that's a peat bog, and so you just kind of have to identify those things. So I think it's relevant to look at the more recent data so that you can take into account the road safety investments that have been made. And so you're getting a clearer picture. If I could have the next slide. This is also from that report. I did a line here. You look at where Edina is, it's kind of hard. You have to go up to the chain of lakes in Minneapolis and then go down, and you see that we do have some issues with road safety. And I did point, this is an arrow, and that's the area where the tunnel is being suggested, and you can see that it's clear. So if we could go to the next one. Here, there's numbers on the different high injury segments. And so we have 2 along France Avenue that were identified. 32 is going from 70th Street north, and then you have 37 from Parklawn south. And so that tunnel is not in the area where there is high injury that has been documented recently, and I think that's important to keep in mind. Suspending is a good idea, but if we come back to this, I do want people to be aware of this. And then if we could go to the next slide. This, I think, is a really interesting one. It's about social vulnerability and thinking about who is really needing to use sidewalks, bikers. Poverty is something to take into account, race, ethnicity, vehicles, no vehicles in the household. And so looking at all of these red lines in Hennepin County, and if our funding source is TIF, that's pulling from Hennepin County too. So where is the best place to put those limited resources? I think I have one more slide. In the process of going through and thinking about things, you know, we got to pull together all this information, but it's important to be accurate. The quality of life survey was included in tonight's packet, and I did mention this at the HRA meeting, and I want to, again, thank Communication Director Benarott for reading the actual question. And the actual question that was in the quality of life survey was very general, and it talked about connecting neighborhoods west of France to Centennial Lakes and the Edina Promenade. There were several different ways that were mentioned, you know, crosswalk, tunnel, bridge, at-grade crossing, and underpass. And so this wasn't about this specific location, but the way some of the data has been summarized from that quality of life survey. I've heard concerns from residents because in this particular case, it was used to say that this specific location between two buildings is something that 70% strongly support. There was also the use of this to say that 70% supported a tunnel, and there was pushback. The Edina Civic Observer did a posting on that. I don't know if anyone follows that, but there was that as well. So if we do come back to this, I think we need to be working with the county and asking them, you know, what they think our best use of dollars are. It's you know, fun and interesting to think about, you know, sort of what could be the ultimate, but at the end of the day, it's got to be something that will really serve the public in the most meaningful way. And safety is so important. Bringing down those numbers, and I've worked with people from the county with the Towards Zero Death program. My nephew was killed through traffic violence. I work with one particular person every year at the state capitol when we do World Day of Remembrance. And so making sure those dollars are spent in the best possible way so we get the most safety is so important. I know people have been sending, I did also see what we could do with crosswalks. And there's just so much, it sounds very routine, and we don't have time to go into that, but I did want to make a plug for that. But since I'm not going to be here in 2027, not running for office again, I do appreciate having this opportunity to, on the record, say what some of my concerns are. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Member Risser. Member Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had two different conversations that are relevant to this, and they said in different areas, one was at 50th and Wooddale, and the other one was at Point of France, I'm strongly against this idea, I want one near me. And I said, are you saying this in all seriousness? I said, yes, in all seriousness, where I have to cross is very dangerous. So thank you for the creativity in looking at this. I would appreciate, first of all, elevating non-motorized transportation to be on par with cars as we look at this. And secondly, something that could be potentially duplicated in other areas. We might get some test dollars if this is something that could be used elsewhere. And it would satisfy those two residents who I thought had really interesting, to use Member Risser's word, paradox, that they don't want to underpass, but they want one near them.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think they're doing some work out on 101 right now that's involving at-grade crossings that we can maybe learn something from as well. Turning to Member Agnew and then Member Pierce.
Thank you. I do want to start with a question because I heard, Mayor, you reference the 300 people calculation that was done. And I wasn't at the HRA meeting on Thursday, but can you just remind me where that figure came from?
Yep, the Three Rivers Park District measured the 9 Mile Creek Regional Trail right at Macy's for a week in September of 2024, and the average was 300 users per day. If you take out Saturday and Sunday, because there was an event at that time, you still get 240 users a day.
Okay.
Average.
I wasn't alive, I guess I should say. I was going to say I wasn't on the council, but I also wasn't alive when we first did the build out of Centennial Lakes Park. Did we use data points on how many people use the gravel pit as an estimate for how many people would use the park?
We typically don't with any pedestrian facilities because there's nowhere to go, so we build it for they will come. We build it for they will come.
Thank you for that. I'm really viewing this in the way that we've framed it up so far as an amazing opportunity for us to continue Centennial Lakes. This could stitch together what we have today on the east side of France to the west side of France. And I think that suspending conversation on this, whether it's till 2027 or 2028, is an overcorrection based on a vocal contingency, when I think that there's a very strong voice that is missing from the conversation right now, and that's the hundreds, if not over 1,000 people who will be living in this direct vicinity within the next couple of years. You know, I know that we often get a lot of emails, right? So we look over the last couple of days on this topic, and I know we've gotten well over 100 emails, right? Some in support, probably the majority concerned about rising costs across the city. And one stuck out to me, and now I'm actually forgetting if this was an email or if this was a comment that we had received from the open house that we had done. But there was an owner from Cedars who was a voice that night for the 1,000 people who live in Cedars properties. And so we have there, you know, kind of a miss in scale of, we saw it as one email or one comment card, but there are today hundreds of people who are wanting this and yearning for this within the community. And I really think that if we only look at the numbers that we have today, or the use that we see, if we see how many people cross today, I don't think that's how we build for our future. And it's these types of opportunities of connecting parts of our community that today face a barrier that is, I think, really how we start to stitch together this community and build for our future. So that's how I feel. I'm not supportive of suspending conversations of this. I do think, though, that it's valuable for us to continue considering alternative options. So maybe an alternative that I would propose is, rather than tabling this so far into the future that it kind of prevents us from capitalizing on the opportunity provided by the fact that both sides are under construction right now, we push this out for whether it be 2 months or 4 months or something that still could leave this option open during the construction periods of those projects. We expedite conversations with the county, revisit some of those options. At this point, like, maybe it's even worth us dusting off some of the bridge concepts and making sure that we have a good understanding of how the 4X cost might be more feasible. But I do know that there were real barriers in those paths as well. But I think that it's an overcorrection for us to stop pursuing this at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So I've got a few comments. When I view this, I think the question for me is framed in really understanding what the problem is. And so we kind of talked about it a little bit as we were giving our comments. But I would say the problem that we're trying to solve is, I think the quality of life survey got it right. 70-ish% of people want to feel safe crossing France Avenue. And I think that is not in question. That's what the open house feedback showed. Open house feedback showed that there was a group that was in the middle, right? Not opposing, not supportive of the tunnel, but wanted to be able to walk safely across France Avenue. So to me, that's what the problem is. And so if that's the problem we're trying to solve, when I look at a $20 million price tag, I can't come up with an ROI for that as the solution to that problem. But the problem does exist. And so from a process perspective, I want to give a shout out to, I want to say commissioner, to Councilmember Jackson. And I'll probably get this wrong, but I think 2 or 3 months ago, we talked about this. We had an opportunity to vote to kill the project months ago. And Member Jackson said, voting to kill it at that point means we wouldn't have feedback from the community. And she wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to have that. And so because we did that, we had the open house, we have received hundreds of emails from people. We've had a chance to look at some data. Maybe that data is not comprehensive enough, but we have had a chance to look at some data. And so I'm grateful that we've had that opportunity, because it did 2 things for me. One, it clarified to me what the problem was, which is what I stated earlier. And 2, it did leave me with this sense that we could solve this problem, but we needed to be creative in doing it. And so I support taking the pause. But what I would say, I go so far as to say, at the end of that pause, we can't come back with, the tunnel again. I agree with parts of what Member Agnew articulated, but what we come back with, I think, should be functional, safe. It should solve the problem at hand. But I think it still should be iconic. I still think it has an opportunity to be a gathering space that connects Centennial Lakes without costing $20 million. And so I support this. The other thing I would say, just from a process standpoint, we can't talk about these things as a council. We have to discuss them here. And so I know in the community, it feels like, right, we may have deaf ears and we're not paying attention and we don't listen, but we do. But we just aren't able to have debates and discussions as a group until these things come up on the agenda. And so I support this pause, but I would want, like I mentioned, whatever we come back with, I think if it's at grade, I think that would be better for the community. But I still want us to lean into this. How can we make it iconic in a way that still speaks to Edina? And then the last thing I'll say, this one was kind of funny to me, and I don't remember which resident sent this, but their email said, man, $20 million, we could hire somebody to personally escort people across France. And I responded to that, and I said, you made me laugh because we probably could do that. And it would last for about, I think I said 30 plus years, or 30 years. But in the 31st year, we still have the same problem to solve. And so that, to me, underscores the importance of us trying to make the right call and I think pausing is it, to then ensure that we're solving the right problem and that we can do it in a fiscally responsible way.
I think everybody's been concerned about this key issue that you've articulated, many of you. How do we get people safely across France Avenue, you know? And that word safe is embedded in the motion as we have been discussing it. So I think we're probably heading in that direction, it looks like, and you need some time to do your work, I take it.
Yes, you already had a date in there, but I think we also need to tell the consultant who put in a proposal in November, they're off the hook with that proposal. We can't hold it any longer. It's already 5 months. So I'm going to take this motion as if we want to study this again with firms, we would go out and do another RFP process.
That's correct.
Okay, that was one clarification.
Correct, yeah. And yeah.
Okay.
Member Jackson had a thought.
Well, I want to honor what Member Agnew said. This is not to me, it's a very, very sad decision. This was an idea that could be a keystone to a green walkable corridor from the new Southdale Library through Centennial Lakes to the new Fred Richards Park. It could create an entire new green connected space to build around. It's a beautiful idea, but I'm going to mourn its loss.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second. We've had discussion. I think people are ready to vote. So all those in favor of adoption of the motion as stated, and I'll restate it if necessary. All those in favor of adoption of the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. The motion is to suspend all current and future city spending on studying the feasibility and design of the France Avenue proposed underpass project, and further direct city staff to engage with technical colleagues at Hennepin County to study at-grade alternatives for safe pedestrian crossings of France Avenue between 66th and 77th Avenue South, and to report back to us on June 30, 2027.
Yep, that's correct.
All right, very good. Thank you. Thanks for that discussion, folks. And thanks to our audience members and our city that have had a keen interest in this project for being here as well. Now we're going to move on to a sketch plan review. The Planning Commission has done this sketch plan and review, and it's our opportunity now to visit with the developer about the proposed project at 7600 Parklawn, which is a senior housing project. And this will be another interesting discussion this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just do a quick introduction here to tee this one up, and then we'll bring the applicant up. So this sketch plan is proposed. The location of the site is in Pentagon Park. The proposal is to tear down an existing office building and build 2 senior housing apartments, upscale apartments. Each unit or each building would have about 125 to 150 units. The proposal here is to utilize the existing zoning district, which is mixed development districts. So there's basically 2 issues for the council to discuss when you get into your discussion. That's height and density. The current zoning would only allow about 125 units on the site. The comprehensive plan would allow much more than that. So there would be some substantial variances there. Also, in regard to height, 4 stories is the limit on this site. And the proposal here, that they'll show 2 options. One is a 7-story option. The other is has a 12-story component. So a formal application would be a site plan review with those sizable variances. So with that, I will introduce Josh Branstead of Greco, and I believe Mike Critch will also assist in the presentation as well.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Branstead. Welcome. Good evening. And Mr. Critch as well. Welcome.
Yep.
There it is. Perfect. Thank you. Mayor, Council, thank you for having me this evening. I'm Josh Branstead, President and owner of Greco Properties, a local real estate development property management group here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I am joined also with Mike Critch, the managing partner for the area for BKV Architects. You're probably familiar with some of Mike's work and his colleagues at BKV as they design the Fred at Fred Richards Park, which is a project that's adjacent to this site. So as we get into discussion tonight,
How about
like
City
Carrie,
Hall?
what
Do that? Yeah, he did City Hall.
That is true, and one Southdale Place. So they've done a lot of work here in the city of Edina, as you're aware of. As we get into discussion tonight, like Carrie mentioned, we've got two different concepts that we've been evaluating, looking at. We're at step 2 of our sketch plan review this evening. We had a really, just a fantastic constructive conversation last week with a lot of great feedback that I will summarize here at the end of this evening's discussion from the Planning Commission last week. But it was just a really thoughtful and very constructive conversation. So between the two concepts, we have a range of 250 to 300 units. What we are looking at today actually has 135 units planned in each building, so 270 units currently. The reason we give that range is really due to variance in unit sizes, et cetera. So as the units get bigger, we have less units. As the units get smaller, we have more units. So with that, a little bit of a perspective map. The red boxes on this map here deem the location of the site of 7600 Parklawn, directly adjacent to Fred Richards Park, which is going through the re-envisioning currently. Along and adjacent to us in the orange boxes here are the residential uses, and then in the purple boxes you see these are more commercial uses, with Pentagon Park being directly south of us. If you went to the site today, this is what you would see for existing conditions. The site is about 90% impervious surface with a 4-story office building in the middle. Primarily occupied by Scale Bank, there are also 3 other occupants within the building. Hillcrest Development currently owns the site, and they would be working through a relocation plan either within Pentagon Park or other locations they have here in the Edina market with these tenants. Today, from a at grade perspective, this is what the building looks like if you were there today. I'm gonna get my slides caught up here. So as we started the process of reviewing the site, really our primary priorities were area alignment related to the Greater Southdale District Plan, primarily unique experiences, pattern and connectivity, scale and form, placemaking. And then I think one of the big pieces is the connectedness and the accessibility to the park and the surrounding areas. You know, as we look at the site and as of itself, you know, high quality design is obviously a high priority for us, sustainability, and then park connectivity along with life cycle housing, really providing an opportunity for people to age in community as we refer to it. As part of this design visioning, we're showing some precedent images here of what's influencing the design. I'll draw your attention to the image in the top left corner. That is actually a building that's under construction today in Minnetonka that we're developing called the Ensley. It's a 55 plus 121 unit active adult apartment building that will be opening here next Friday. So, you know, post this meeting tonight, we would, you know, absolutely welcome the opportunity to tour anybody through that project too, just so you get a sense of what the finished quality and product type that would be delivered here at 7600 Parklawn. The middle image in the upper level 2 is a project that we just got finished entitling in Woodbury at the old Hartford Insurance Campus. So that project will break ground this October. BKV is the architect on that project as well. But I think what we're just trying to show, you know, and simulate with some of these images is how we've had the ability to scale some of these projects with step backs, overhanging eyebrows, and then the remaining imagery in here is it's just really high quality architecture that we see as being complements to this area as well. So as we discussed, the project is phased from west to east. So directly west of the site is Fred Richards Park. And one thing I would just say is that the orientation of these buildings is very flexible at this point, right? We are really studying the site, what makes sense. We got a lot of really good feedback related to orientation, how the building could step and connect to the park. One of the really, I think, interesting pieces that was brought up is, hey, what if we could take this surface parking for the guests and the vendors? Could we get it within the buildings and create a more prominent boardwalk for the public to come in through Parklawn, or if they're coming through the south, to come back and connect to the park? So that's something that we're investigating further, but I think it was really, really well thought out feedback. Our next slide is a massing diagram, just to give ourselves some perspectives of what the project would look like. So the project, this is the 2-building, 7-story concept, so concept 1. At the end of the day, we think this is the one that wins on the aspect of feasibility, fitting within the scale of what is there or has been recently developed around Fred Richards Park. And I think it's this concept that we got the most favorable feedback from the Planning Commission last week as well. This is the main level of the buildings. This will be the same for the concept we're looking here in concept 1 and concept 2. Just a couple pieces I think that are really interesting that we talked a lot about last week at Planning Commission. The little black boxes or gray hash boxes here you see around the perimeter. These are all walk-up units that actually surround our parking that we will have on the first level of the building. But they're really meant to have kind of a front yard concept to them. So eyes on the street, the paths, and then the ability for people to come in and out as if it was like a walk-up townhome. Here's just more of a level plan. So you get while being a 7-story building, it's really 6.5 stories above grade due to the soil conditions and the water table. We're assuming our site will be very similar to what they saw and incurred at the Finch and the Fred. So we don't have the ability necessarily to go 2 levels underground like some sites do. And then we took it upon ourselves also to do a sun study or a shadow study at this point in time. And what you'll see is really that December to March timeframe are the times of the year, which is really no surprise to anybody here, that you see the largest shadows casted. We are able to mitigate it as much as possible to our neighbors to the north, but kind of that late afternoon time, you do get some overcast on them. Then in our second concept that we had concepted, this actually, the pink box that you see here, is a 12-story tower. We'd been analyzing this as part of a for-sale project. We went down about a 2-month time frame where we were really investigating, hey, could this be a for-sale site in Edina? I think we got a lot of market feedback during that time frame, and it just, with other things that are occurring in and around Edina, this is probably not an A-plus site for sale product. The price point is going to have to be very substantial to support today's construction cost. And then we evaluated it also as a rental product. Again, the rents in the 12-story building will have to be substantial to support that type of construction cost. So we do see this as being a really unique opportunity at this location, and don't totally want to turn ourselves away from it. But we do know that it has a much larger uphill climb on the feasibility side of things. But what you will see that you get from a structure like this is you get a lot more open space. However, this is on the second floor, so it's an elevated open area. It's not necessarily on the ground level. Again, another massing study, just so you get kind of some perspective of how it fits in with the surroundings. First level, really no different than the first concept. And again, our cut sheets from the side. We did a shadow study on this too. You can see the shadows do cast further. And again, it's this kind of late afternoon time frame that we see the most during this December to March time frame. So with that, this evening, so what we have are the 2 different concepts here. Really the priorities are an aging in community, 55 plus age restricted redevelopment in 2 different phases. So phase 1 would begin time 0, call it. Takes approximately 20 months to build that first phase. Lease that up would be about another 8 to 12 months, and then we'd anticipate proceeding with phase 2. We've done a number of phased deliveries throughout the Twin Cities over the last 8 years, and when we have larger scale redevelopments like this, it's worked very well. I think too, in the end, this is well over $100 million worth of development on a site that currently sits at about a $6 million assessed value at the site. So pretty significant economic impact to the area. From Planning Commission last week, just some of the highlights. I won't go through all the details, as I'm sure you're very well aware of them, but I think the 7-story concept was the most favored concept, the 2 7-story buildings. We did have 2 members that were not necessarily totally concerned about the height from this 12-story. We've got quite a bit of feedback on potentially replacing that exterior parking within the building and creating that larger promenade. We will need to still have some exterior parking for vendors, pickup services, et cetera, like that, but we could reduce down to more of a parallel system and create kind of that more promenade boardwalk system. Thinking through our site, through our orientation, and then also just thinking about, we had a really good question from one of the commissioners of where's the front door of this building, and does it want to engage more with the park? So I think, what we took away from that and some of the early conversations we've been having is there needs to be a pretty extensive conversation with the Parks Department too, of what they're doing at the park, how we engage with that, and how we bring this to life together. So, and then I think the last piece was the stepping of the project to the park, and I think those all resonated very well with us. So this evening, I am here along with Mike to answer any and all your questions.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Brancer, for that helpful presentation, and then letting us know what the Planning Commission was thinking as well from your perspective. I'm going to turn to Councilmember Pierce. He's going to lead us off and give us his thoughts about your ideas.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So thanks for the presentation. Can you just start just talking about the economics? So this is rental. Correct. And so for seniors, so just talk about the financials, the cost per unit, what types of units?
Yeah, so our rental range, we will have predominantly 2 and 3 bedroom apartments here. That's what we've learned at our Ensley project up the road that is in the highest demand. We will have some 1 bedrooms in the project as well, but 1 bedrooms will start right around the $2,000 mark, and then as you get into the biggest, nicest units with a variety of different upgrades, you can go up to the $6,000 or $7,000 mark. The majority of our 2 and 3 bedrooms will fall between the $3,000 to $5,000 range, I'd call it.
Okay. Thanks for going through the 2 building heights, so 7 and 12. I want to say I'm not excited about the 12, but I am probably 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It may fit in the area, with the Fred there. That's not 12 stories, but it's a pretty big building.
Yes, that's a 7-story.
It feels like a big building.
Yeah.
And so it may fit. What I don't think I like about it is if that is for sale, you're going to have it on the side with the best views as well, which is what I would do too if I were to build that. But that doesn't feel great when I think about it from that perspective. But I think the 7-story footprint, I think I'd be okay with that. I like the fact that in this entire area, it's really shaping up to be a nice little area. You have a little bit of retail there. There's still some development spaces over there. I'm in that area a fair amount. And so I think it's a nice little area, especially with the park there. And so the one question would be, on your one slide, you had the walk-up units. What are your thoughts behind kind of activating with the park. You're not quite situated perfectly for that, but what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think what we need to do is take the next step and get the final design files from the park. But I think that there's a lot of different opportunities that could occur along these borders, whether as we bring in this, kind of this boardwalk concept, is there kind of a plaza concept? And I don't know this without knowing anything else of what's going on exactly in the park. We've seen a variety of different renditions. We have a meeting with them here in early May to learn more about that. But I think, is there an opportunity, are there unique opportunities at connection points that could occur at these corners here, or could it be in midline with how we could connect through and interconnect our paths? It also allows us, if we do this boardwalk and we remove this surface parking here, maybe it goes to parallel, it allows us to move the entire site plan slightly south too, to also, again, kind of create a little bit more separation from the border of the park, so we don't feel like we're coming down on it. And it has an opportunity to create a really unique just pedestrian experience or bike experience.
And so this next comment, I don't know if this is a compliment or not, but when I first looked at this, I did kind of have a sense of the enclave, right, where that concept of you're able to walk through those buildings to get to the boardwalk. And so given where the park is, if you were able to do a boulevard on the front of the south side of the building, being able to kind of walk through to the park, I think that would be fairly interesting as well. So I think in general, I liked the concept. It definitely is a significant upgrade to that space, and I think it would, your architecture, I like the renderings. I think it would fit nicely, that kind of upgraded technology in that space. And so it's just thinking about, is there a way to add a little bit more activation, more green space? I like the boulevard concept, and then how we might add some activation towards the park. And I think the 7 stories for me is probably the right mark. And then last question, in terms of financing, and I didn't go through all of the documentation, what kind of financing are you looking for? Is this fully
as far as
TIF?
I think we would open that up as part of the conversation, especially with the ability to deliver affordable units here.
Okay.
We do know that that's it's a high demand. Our stuff in Minnetonka filled up immediately, so we do know that affordability is an opportunity here. I think too is we're learning more too of what this project can contribute to the park as well. So I think getting the whole cake baked so we understand the economics on it will probably help us lead us down that path.
You're just looking for some direction, feel from us before you go to the next phase. Correct. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good. Councilmember Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So thank you for the presentation. I'll be honest, when I looked at this, I had a hard time navigating through the site. I like the idea of redeveloping this piece of property. I think senior housing is very much needed. When I look at site plan, though, it is a lot about the movement of people through the site. And the driveway looks like it goes in from the south, but again, where is the front door? I think that's the perfect question. Would this have a fence around the perimeter for people's front yards, or is it open to the sidewalk and everything? How contained does it feel?
No, I think we would concept it to be open, and we'd use landscaping to kind of define the barriers. I'd say to be very similar, like what you've probably seen at 1 Southdale. We have a similar project in Champlin that sits up on the riverfront where we did this kind of front yard concept. So they're an open yard. They're about, I suppose they're 75 feet to 100 yard long, and it walks to and they go out to the public sidewalk, and that ties into the MRT trail system. And so it really feels more residential neighborhood.
Okay,
than,
terrific, yeah. That's helpful. I will say that 12 stories, I would not be in favor of that. I worry about the impact of shade on both the park and on the neighbors. You know, we're going to be planting things, and it's a green space. I just am not comfortable with the shadow that would be cast by that. But yeah, if you've got a plan for moving through the space on foot so that if I want to go visit a friend there, I can find them. Yeah. That's the primary concern I have. You know, where's the front door and how do I get in? But yeah, thank you for coming forward with this to the community. Like I said, there's a real need for senior housing. So thanks.
Mercer?
I watched the Planning Commission and really do appreciate Commissioner Bennett asking just point blank what version you like the best. Yeah. And I believe you are still on the same page with the 7-story.
Correct.
Okay. I see the logic of that, and I really have a hard time envisioning something 12 stories tall right next to the park. Mm-hmm. I think that would be a mistake. In terms of green space and walking through it and all of that, I liked the suggestion of shifting the parking so that you could have more of a boulevard. I do like what you said about maybe pulling it back. I'm the commissioner who's more, you know, we hear a lot about how is the building going to interact with the public space? How is it going to connect to the park? How is it going to connect to the sidewalk? And I think sometimes we push that idea a little bit too far. And I know, you know, and my colleagues are probably tired of hearing about this, but in one case having an easement along a public sidewalk and you've got the railings literally coming down into the public space. I don't like that. I want to make sure that the public realm remains firmly the public realm and we don't have railings going down into the public sidewalk. And so that kind of thing is on my mind. I honestly feel like what I'm seeing, I don't have any qualms about it, just, you know, so that it's not people on balconies, you know, right where, you know, you're strolling by 2 feet away or something like that. Right. So, and I don't think you're doing that. No. Based on this. Is the idea that you could drive through, and then the one concern I had is that the parking at the park ends up being overflow parking, but that's not what the idea isn't to have a driveway that would flow into the park parking lot, right?
No, it's not.
Okay, no, good. I just had to ask that.
Our diagram here does not exactly line up with the final design over there.
Okay.
So there are some errors on this as it relates to that.
Because I would not like to see that. I think that would be a huge mistake. But you know, I think when we see an elevation, we'll know where the front door is. Mm-hmm. But I don't have any blocking concerns. Well, in terms of square footage, what is the smallest unit that you're putting in?
The smallest unit will be between 900 to 1,000 square feet.
Okay.
Average unit will be about 15 to 1,600 square feet in this concept.
Okay. And yeah, so I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Councilmember Agnew.
Thank you. And I'm going to start off probably with questions for Director Teague, if I may. As I'm looking through what I believe is the document that was probably gone over with the Planning Commission specifically, we see that today the site is zoned for mixed development. And from, you know, a land use perspective, this whole general area is marked as office residential. Can you walk me through, though, Director Teague, like what is the overall vision for this site? And maybe even speak to some of the transformation that we've seen over the last handful of years. And I mean the whole kind of that corridor region.
Yep. So the vision, I apologize for my voice. I don't know what I got going on, but I'll do the best I can. So the vision for this area comes more from the comprehensive plan. That's where the densities were established at the 20 to 75 units an acre. The idea behind the comprehensive plan and implementing that over the last 5-10 years was to do PUD and use that give to get to create a zoning ordinance basically for a specific site. We're moving away from that, and that's part of the whole zoning ordinance update. We want to create zoning districts that are more in alignment with the comprehensive plan. So I would say this project is in alignment with that vision for the Southdale area and the comprehensive plan.
Thank you, because I think my reaction to this is, and I don't have an opinion at this point if it's good or bad, but what we're seeing is sites that had been more office and potentially, I don't even know, no, I wouldn't even say mixed use, but more office are now becoming pretty much strictly residential. And so if that trend continues, right, kind of site by site by site, do we have any thoughts on this becoming like a strictly nearly residential area along that entire corridor?
Yeah, that is a concern, though this whole area is guided office and residential use. And in the comprehensive plan, it talks about those uses being allowed as a primary use. But that is a concern if we lose office over time. The tool that we would have in the future to potentially say no to a project like this, well, maybe not this district because this is all zoned MDD, MDD6, which allows both of those uses, but a lot of that area is zoned planned office or planned industrial district. So the city could say no to those types of residential uses through that rezoning.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful, and maybe kind of relates back to the comprehensive plan conversation we were having just earlier this evening. Okay, so now thinking about this sketch plan that was brought here directly, I don't know, I'm kind of going back and forth. Can you speak to me a little bit about the desire to have senior housing as opposed to just housing?
General market rate. Yeah, I think a lot of, well, for this, I would say this location in particular, there's been a lot of market rate, what we call general occupancy housing apartments that have been built in the area. So I think just from a concept standpoint, market depth standpoint, I think we feel that this is probably an area that hasn't been built to as much. There's been a lot of units also delivered around the Southdale area as well. So where we see the market opportunity is really in this 55 plus product type. It's really a product type too that we feel that we can build at a higher quality too than our general market rate apartment buildings, just because the economics, the residents are paying more for their residences, and so therefore they demand more as well. And it just brings a better quality of product along with services and whatnot. But I think the main driving factor here too is the existing landowner, I think, would prefer not to have another standard market rate apartment building here at the Pentagon complex into the long term, but does think that the senior concept does complement what has been delivered at this point and what's coming in the park.
Okay, and the reason that I ask is because I didn't bring a version of it, because now I don't even remember if it was specific to the affordable housing units or if there was one that was just general, like units of housing that are being added to Edina. And I think it was like an overwhelming percentage of that was in the senior housing category. But I'm going to look to city staff to correct me on that if I am stating that incorrectly.
Yeah, I think there's some truth in that statement. It's been kind of a mixture of senior and with market rate as well, but.
Okay. And yeah, I think it was specific to kind of what we had from like a Met Council of what we needed to, as a city, target for the affordable housing numbers. And I just remember like we were doing really well with the senior housing and then we're falling behind elsewhere. And so the reason that I question that is I know that there's a need for housing, and I know that the way that we've been fulfilling that need more so lately is with this kind of senior housing segment, maybe. And so I don't know that I'm as excited about a project that is specific for seniors on this site. And I also really like owner occupied, which I know you mentioned the numbers don't necessarily work out, but I'd be curious to know, like, what would that project need to look like in order for the numbers to work out for owner occupied, I'll just say general housing on that site.
Yep.
You mentioned that the owner today isn't interested in general apartment, but do you think there could be an appetite if it were the owner occupied model?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Actually, we had an interest in doing that. Historically, as a company, we've done a lot of condos in our past years. Where we got to, so we basically would need to, in the brokers that we talked through in the community, this isn't an A-plus site in Edina for sale product, given the fact we're not on France Avenue, and there's other for sale projects that are in discussion or in the works that would have a superior site location than us. So that's one kind of knock against us. So we're a B site versus an A-plus site for sale. The other aspect was, so given that we are the B site, we need to be able to price our units in the $700 to $850 square foot range, they thought, for us to be competitive in the market. Well, as you probably all know, you get into the Southdale area of France Avenue, it's not uncommon for units to go above $1,000 a square foot. So where it really, you kind of have this inflection point is that $700 to $800 a square foot, trying to build to that in today's world is nearly impossible for what we're trying to do. The other piece, so then that's just on the cost aspect of it. The other piece, for us to be able to feasibly take down this site, we need to be able to get between 125 to 150 units on each phase to justify the land cost. We need to have roughly 50 to 60% pre-sales on a condo building. To get 60 pre-sales on a condo building, we're told is kind of unheard of, just the pure unit number. From the rental side, we'd say have 60 pre-leased units. That's not really that big of a deal. But on the for sale side, it is a much steeper hill to climb. So those are probably the biggest things. So I think it's bridging that economic gap between $700, $800 a square foot and $1,000 a square foot in pricing. And then it's probably the bigger task is attracting investment here and going out and trying to get 50 to 60% pre-sales on it. And the upfront investment that goes in to do that is pretty substantial.
Thank you. Okay, so the last part was around the 12 stories versus the 7. And I go back and forth, I'm sure just like everyone else, because what I like about 12 stories is it opens up for a larger courtyard. Mm-hmm. And then it doesn't feel like we are just putting as much buildable space onto that site as possible. Because when I view those renderings of the 7 stories, it feels like it's taking up so much of that space. Mm-hmm. So that's what appeals to me in the 12 story. And at the same time, then my primary concern is about the shadowing impact on the park and just kind of the massing when there's not massing like that anywhere near this area. So it feels like probably trying to put too much into the site, regardless of if you can figure out a way to make the 12-story work or some lower story. The 7 stories, it just feels like using so much of that site and just not leaving any open space. So those are my thoughts. I, again, would really prefer owner-occupied. I'm nervous generally, and this isn't your problem to solve necessarily, but I'm nervous about all of these sites potentially turning into housing only. So I think that that's something for us to think about as a council and to take into our comprehensive plan discussions that we're having as well. I would like to see some type of vision and just articulation of what we want to see for this area, because so much development is happening in here extremely quickly. And if we don't come up with a vision, there's not going to be a chance to set a vision because everything will be redeveloped. So that's something that I want to call out, but again, it's not feedback direct to you. So thank you. Thank you for your interest and for coming here tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Branstad. I thought Member Agnew kind of characterized the dilemma of 12 stories versus 7 stories quite well. Yeah, I know when I look at the, just, the blocked out site plan with the orange blocks on it, it looks like it's taken up a lot of the site. But when I scroll back to the drawing above it, and I see quite a bit of green space, a lot more green space than exists there right now. It's the one right before that, I think, or at least it is in our packet. No, you maybe don't even have it. Yeah, that one. Yeah. And I also recognize that if you're going to make an investment like this of around $100 million, you got to do it in a way where you know people are going to want to live there. And you've got the park is your greatest amenity right there and location. So I've got a high level of optimism that when you come back and you get the plans further along and you got that ace architect there to help you figure out how to create green space, how to make people feel comfortable that they're not in a too dense an environment, and then they've got great connectivity to the park. So I'm not so worried about that at this point in time. I think you will know what you have to do based on your experience and the site to be able to maximize your income potential, your rental potential. So that's something that isn't of concern to me. I also just on the positive side, like how you've stacked the surface parking towards the street. You've stayed away from the park except in terms of connectivity. And I like we did at the Fred and the Finch, I'd like to make sure that we work with you to kind of make that transition kind of seamless, and you can't really figure out where the borderline is because it's just a nice sort of transition back and forth to the property into the park, and I think that's beneficial for everybody that's either coming or going to the park. And that's about all I've got for now. I'm kind of intrigued with that 12-story idea too, and ownership, but I understand completely what you're talking about. I know the Planning Commission liked the 5 to 7 stories, and it's more compatible with everything else that's around it, so I would probably tend to lean that direction too. And I think Member Risser has thought of something else she wanted to visit with you about.
I want to thank Member Agnew for bringing up a couple issues that she may not have. Anyway, I ended up thinking about TIF financing, and I am concerned if this is TIF dependent, and just want to put out there that what that does delays when we will get benefit of the increment. And you're bringing in senior residents. That means basically we're giving you, for as long as the TIF district lasts, a coupon that says we will provide free fire, police, all these services within the city that other residents will pick those up. So it's going to be hard for me if this is a TIF dependent project, and I just wanted to get that out there. Okay. Thank you.
Even if it's for affordable housing only?
If it's at the cost that we've done in the past, where we've done 4.86 million and we've gotten 15 units and 13 of those are single bedrooms, and some of them might be in the 500 and they're this close to market rate, yeah, I'm going to have a really hard time with that.
Okay, good to know. Anybody else have anything? See, it's not supplementally they wanted to visit with Mr. Branstad about, or Mr. Critch. Okay, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That's almost a wrap on the evening. I'm going to turn it over to Manager Neal.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a couple of things. One, Commissioner or Council Member Agnew and I have Southwest Cable Commission tomorrow. The Cable Commission meets twice a year, typically in April and October, and so tomorrow is our April meeting in Eden Prairie. Second, I testified this morning at the Senate Tax Committee on behalf of the city's local sales tax bill. And the goal of that testimony is to get additional spending authority from the state legislature to spend our own locally generated sales tax dollars. And I think it cannot be overstated how important this source of revenue could be to the city. We are looking at additional spending authority of between $53 and $56 million from the sales tax, and if we had to put that out as a tax levy on taxpayers in the community, it would be oppressive. So being able to get that additional authority from the state, or even maybe additional on top of what we've already asked for, would be great, because we have somewhere between $70 to $80 million of capacity that we have left untouched in our sales tax generation. So just wanted to let you know that. There's a House companion bill that will be taken up in a hearing on Thursday, and then we'll see what happens from there. That's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Agnew, you want to lead us off on the council comments?
I do. Can I lead us off? Maybe, was it I think it was our last meeting already now, when the topic of, I'll just say, charitable gambling was reviewed and approved. And there were some questions, I think, on what was within our power as a city in terms, I had questions very specifically related to the electronic versions of this method of charitable gambling. And I think that we got a little bit more clarity on that. And so I'm wondering if we can ask Dave Kendall to just provide an update on like what we can do as a city and what is required in terms of whether you have electronic or whether you have just paper options.
Sure. So if you have electronic pull tabs, you must also have paper pull tabs. If you want to have paper bingo, you must also have one other form of legalized gambling. Aside from that, I don't believe there are a lot of limitations. Cities can prohibit gambling entirely, lawful gambling entirely. Therefore, I think they can, with the exceptions of the things I just mentioned, they can kind of pick and choose which types of gambling to authorize. So if the question is whether you want to only authorize more analog or paper types of gambling and not electronic gambling, I think that would be an option.
Wonderful. Thank you for providing an update on that. I don't think that in my member comments will open up a conversation now, but I do think that it's something that I would like us as a council to consider is, do we want to amend what we just put into place to restrict the electronic versions? And maybe my ask before folks go out or have an opinion on that is go somewhere and try them out. I think it'll be important for folks to really know what it is that we're talking about having as a part of our establishments. Outside of that, really enjoyed seeing a lot of folks at the Edina Give and Go Gala. I think that they raised a lot of money and that was a beautiful event. So glad to see that this last Friday. And I think that that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I had one question for Manager Neal. We had 911 service go out a couple times. Can you speak to what the issue was and what steps we're taking moving forward?
I can speak to it in general, and maybe Mr. Venny could speak to it in more specifics, but my understanding is that there was a fiber provider or fiber partner kind of upstream from us that had an issue between two data centers, and that's what caused not only outages for us, but outages for other PSAPs or dispatch centers in Hennepin County as well. Maybe not to the same extent as ours, but we were able to handle it through the resilience of the system. that allows us to roll our calls over to St. Louis Park or to one of the other kind of singles or standing PSAPs. And we were able to not lose any calls during that time, and hopefully we haven't received any direct complaints about it. But it is a human system. It's going to have human failings to it. So not only do we pursue those partners to make sure they're repairing it and make sure those repairs are going to stand, but we need to make sure we're able to react to it if it does fail. And I think that's where a lot of training came in over that weekend.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, that's my understanding is how it all came together as well too. And we are going to have a debrief and after action as well too. So we have some learning points that we will have at our fingertips too.
Okay, thank you. And then the only other one I had, Member Agnew mentioned it, the Edina Give and Go fundraiser. It's fun. You know, it's kind of weird when we go to these things because, like, we don't talk to each other. Right? It's like you look the other way because we're all there. But it's definitely a fun event, and my understanding is that they did extremely well. So glad to be able to continue to support that organization.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Thanks for that. Councilmember Jackson.
Member Risser and I got to go down to the Public Works and get state of the infrastructure, and it included the opportunity to go say hi to the guys down there, the people down there, and I really enjoyed that, and I hope that we can have another set of meetings down there because I really loved saying hi. So thanks.
Member Risser.
That was a really good experience, and they did reference some of the old piping that they dig up. And I think it would be absolutely wonderful to have a display of, you know, some of the various forms of piping beneath the streets of Edina. It could be very educational and inspiring. And, you know, why do we have to replace our streets and why is it important to do that? I think could be kind of fun for people to see. But I could be alone on that. There might not be that big an issue on old rusty pipes and the variations of those, but I'm fascinated by that. I would like to see that. However, what I was going to talk about was this Sunday, 26th, Earth Day, and we are having a celebration at Weber Park from 1 to 4, so encourage people to go over there and enjoy themselves and learn about all sorts of different types of sustainability. So do check that out, 1 to 4, Weber Park, this Sunday. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, the Edina Give and Go event was terrific, and I just happened to run into, well, I guess it was yesterday when we had State of the City. Stephanie, who runs the organization, said that they had made over $100,000, so it was quite a good evening for them. And then we had a good turnout at State of the City. Manager Neal did a nice job as the MC. Our new superintendent was terrific, I thought, and everything. We had a good report out to folks that were in the audience about what was going on in the city of Edina, and we left some things undiscussed because we had so much going on. But it was still it was a good day. I mentioned that we had the new library going up, and I forgot to mention in context of the new library in the Arts Center that our own Councilmember Jackson has had a nice role in thinking about getting that going along with other folks, but she was certainly there thinking about what was possible at that new library. So thanks for that. Yeah, appreciate that. And I forgot to mention that yesterday. So I think that's it for me. Manager Neal, anything else?
I just wanted to note that you made a couple comments about Public Works. The Public Works annual open house is May 21st this year. 4 to 8, Chad, something like that? 4 to 7. Okay, thanks.
Okay. I was just checking in my calendar to see if there was anything else I should give people notice on. I'll be at that one on Weber Park with you on Sunday. And let's see here real quick. That's it. That's good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I second.
Member Pierce moves, Member Agnew seconds. We adjourn the City Council meeting of the City of Edina this Tuesday, April 21st, 2026 at 9:55 p.m. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We stand adjourned.